माइक ऑन है? Good evening, students. My name is Reghu and we have 6 topics lined up. Right, some of you might be new because I have not seen you earlier, right? So I have to tell you what exactly this ED is, editorial discussion, and how this editorial discussion can help you. As you know, these are in-depth current affairs analysis. Now when I am saying in-depth, after attending the lecture and as well as reading the material which you have, you will come to know what is the meaning of in-depth. Because there are many things which are there in the news. But in order to understand that from a UPSC perspective, it is necessary to understand many other things. Because the newspapers generally only address the current development. So we need to know what happened before, what exactly is happening, and also what can happen. I mean, past, present and the future of a particular event has to be understood properly. One problem with the newspaper is that newspaper also has its own ideology. Right. And as a potential civil servant, if at all you should have an ideology, that ideology should be of public service rather than towards any political ideology. Please sit. So, one thing you need to keep in your mind is that whatever be the topic, at the most one question will come in the mains examination. And if it is one question, it can come either in 10 marker or 15 marker. A 10 marker question has a word limit of 150 words. A 15 marker will have 250. I am talking about GS. The question is how much time you will have and how much space you will have to write a 150 words answer. To write a 150 words answer, how much time will you have? If you divide the entire 3 hours into different category, on an average it is 7 minutes. Right? And the space you have is 1.5 page maximum. Because on an average a person will write 100 words on a page. And if you have 1.5 page, it will be 150. So whatever you study from a topic, at the max, it should not be more than 2 pages, which means the material which we have given you, a topic will be dealt in a comprehensive manner. It will have almost 6 to 7 pages. Now the question is, this is a reference material for you. You need to use it judiciously. You need to convert this reference material into a note. A note should not have more than 2 pages. I would say it should not have 1.5 pages. You need to convert this because your idea should be to write a good answer. And to write a good answer, let's say you need some facts. Multiple facts are given here. An analysis is required. Or let's say if you want to write an answer, you should write some points supporting it or some point, let's say, against it. How many points you can write? 3 to 4 maximum. But we have given much more point because that is what an issue should be understood properly. That is the purpose of it. So your idea should be keeping this entire material as a reference material, a reference book, and converting that into a concise note and revising it properly. Revision is very important because current affairs is something which we tend to forget. Until and unless we do not revise, we tend to forget a lot of things. So revision is important. First thing is making concise notes. Second thing, revision. Third thing is that we have provided some questions after every topic. Once you know that you have studied them, you have studied the topics thoroughly, You've revived it, then attempt those questions and give it to us. This should be the strategy for mains. But as you know, this AD lecture or discussion is integrated. It covers both the PT aspects too. Lot of information are there, factual information. So you need to pick up them too. Either you can make your own notes of PT, or you can mark, underline those points and just write there PT. Minimizing resources and maximizing revision is the key to success for the examination. Do not run here and there. Whatever you have, you study it properly. Because you know that in a general studies category, if you are from a general category, the cutoff for general category students in mains, it is below 50%. As far as PT is concerned, it is around 40 to 45%. That is what the general trend is. That has to be kept in mind. Our approach, our study should be oriented towards clearing this examination. Right? And this lecture is going to be interactive in the sense that you can ask questions, any questions you can ask, anytime you can ask. I will satisfactorily answer each and every question. That might take some time because generally we have 3 hours for the lecture and I have a habit of taking more than 4 hours. Right? But I'll try to complete it in time. You are welcome to ask your questions, clarification and anything. First topic we have is Wither transparency, exploring the nexus between electoral bonds and free and fair elections. Now, what is the meaning of this wither? Dramatic word. Anybody? It's an English word. Tell me. What is the meaning of it? Dilution. Vanishing. Eroding. Fantastic. So, electoral bond, whether electoral bond is electoral bonds erode. F and F means free and fair election. That's the question we are going to discuss. Because you know that recently there has been a petition in the Supreme Court. In fact, this petition has been filed way back. But I want to ask you one thing. What is this electoral bond? You know anything about this electoral bond? Because we assume that you know something about it. Because if I start discussing about electoral bonds, for that matter, every single issue, then it will be like a foundation batch and it won't end. But to give you one idea about electoral bond is that it's a financial instrument for political funding in India. Now you might have a definition like it's a bearing instrument, something like it's a very complicated one. Why to go for it? It's a financial instrument for funding political parties in India. This electoral bond is part of an electoral bond scheme announced by the government of India in 2018 budget. Right? It is very much necessary to keep in mind it's a scheme, not a bill, not an act, not a policy, nothing, scheme. Now, the problem is that electoral bonds, according to critics, they say electoral bonds, though the funding of political parties through electoral bonds, create opaqueness. Because the donor of this electoral bond to political parties, their identity is not revealed. Which means I am the person I want to donate money to a political party. Now the question is, how can I donate? What are the ways of donating to a political party? Let's say a political party A. How can I donate? I can donate through cash. I can't donate to non-cash. I can donate through electoral bond. I'm just dividing it into some category. Keep this in mind. Now I am dividing the funds of political parties into two categories. How? Political party funds. Two sources of funds. What are they? They are known sources, unknown sources. Political parties in India get funds from two major sources or two category of sources. One is known, another is unknown. What is known? Known means the person who is giving the money, the company who is funding the political party, the details are known. Known. Unknown means not known. Now, what is this known? How will you know this? As per Representation of Peoples Act 1951, Section 29A. Representation of People Act 1950 and 51 are very important. You will find questions in PT as well as mains. Right? If you see the 2022 mains paper, you will see. Very difficult question. It was not an easy question because question was asking about how a returned candidate election can be void. क्या है void? What is the meaning of void? Which means something, it has not existed. A person who is elected, his election can be challenged through an election petition in the High Court. This is known as election dispute. The question was about this election dispute. What is the procedure? Do you know the procedure? We know that only election, this is through High Court. But what happens after that? Or what is the procedure? Who can file? In depth. And not only that, case laws were also asked. Case laws, which means also explain with case laws. Some examples of some cases in High Court or Supreme Court. Right? Anyway, the point I am trying to say, very important. In our lecture, we will have lot of cases. Because cases are very important in UPSC this time. Right? So, what I am saying is, according to the section 29A of RPA 1951, contributions to the political parties in the excess of 20,000 more. I mean, contribution to political parties which is more than 20,000. More than 20,000. More than 20,000 if a person is or a company is giving to a political party, and the concerned political party has to maintain something called contribution report. क्या maintain करना पड़ता है? See, why I am explaining this is very important. Important in the sense that we do not know what exactly ecosystem is. We do not know how political party is getting fund, which laws are regulating them. If you read the newspaper, there are multiple grey areas. So it is my duty to tell you what exactly it is. Right? That is why I am explaining this. Now, according to this section, every political party getting more than 20,000 rupees from a person or a company should maintain something called contribution report. In this contribution report, the details of the person, details, his PAN number, whatever, everything has to be maintained. Now, if you are maintaining, then the identity of a person is very much known. That is what is this known. Clear? And what is unknown? less than 20,000 plus electoral bond. Less than 20,000 plus electoral bond. Which means in unknown category, all those contributions which are less than 20,000 and any contribution through electoral bond. Any contribution through electoral bond is unknown source, which means no record of contribution, no record of person has to be kept as per this section 29A. Which means if you are keeping it, you have to submit this to Central, what is that? Election Commission of India. Every political party has to submit this return to Election Commission of India. But for this, they simply show it is unknown. Electoral bond, any contribution, any denomination, electoral bond can be purchased by an individual or a company in the denomination of 1,000, 10,000, 1 lakh, 10 lakh, 1 crore. This is the denomination. Right? Now you know that this 2018 was the electoral bond, 2022. The latest data that we have, more than 10,000 crore rupees have been funded, more than 10,000 crore rupees worth electoral bonds have been sold. More than 10,000 crore worth electoral bonds have been sold during these 4 years. And 90% of them are above the 90% of them are at the denomination of 1 crore. Matlab 90% of total electoral bond, this 10,000 crore, 90% of 10,000 crore, kitna hai? You can do the mathematics. The point I am trying to say, this entire 10,000 crore is anonymous, unknown. One of the objective of electoral bond, according to the government, when it introduced this electoral bond scheme, was to have transparency in political funding. Government claimed that there will be transparency. How? Because this electoral bond cannot be purchased through cash. It can be purchased either through check, DD or digital payment. Or the person, मेरे account में पैसा है वो debit होगा. No cash transaction. And the person who can buy this will have KYC, complaint account, etc., etc. And the political party, there is an account which is sanctioned by the Election Commission, and it has to be deposited in that account. But the question is, this huge amount of money is entering into political funding system, and there is no reason, no way to know that who is funding it. Political funding or political financing in India is the Gangotri of corruption. The ultimate root of all evils, corruption in Indian administration goes to this political funding. Now the question is, how this electoral bond have come into being? You understand the design behind it. Now I am saying this is unknown. They will say we are getting funds from unknown sources. So neither the Election Commission of India, neither tax authorities, or neither the individual people will not know, will not have any idea about who is funding who. यहाँ पे चेयर है. अच्छा. You see, as I mentioned, electoral bonds 2018. This electoral bond scheme was introduced in budget 2018. But the Finance Act 2017, Finance Act 2017 amended few laws in order to make electoral bond functioning or working. You see, I said electoral bond is a scheme introduced in budget. Budget is what? Budget is a financial statement of income and expenditure of the government. But when budget is presented, after that Finance Act is passed. Finance Act means what? An act that gives legislative sanction to the financial proposals of the government, taxation and expenditure. Now, in order to make this electoral bond functioning, government amended few acts. Now, what are the acts? Representation of People Act 1951, Section 29A. IT Act, Income Tax Act, Section 13. Companies Act, 2013. FCRA, 2010. Earlier, as I mentioned, all those contributions beyond the 20,000 rupees should be, the details should be furnished to the Election Commission of India. 29A amended, they said, if the contribution is through electoral bond, no furnishing required. If electoral bond से है तो मत करो, अच्छी बात है. IT Act Section 13, political parties, their income is tax exempted in India. The person or company who's funding the political party, they can show it as deductible income. Political parties, in order to get tax exemption, should maintain some records and should file some returns to Income Tax Department. And the earlier, before the amendment, the position was like this, again 20,000 above. You need to prepare contribution report, all the details, kaun de rahe, PAN kya hai, all those to IT department. This said, this amendment nullified. No need to give. Companies Act 2013. Earlier there was limitation of the political limitation of political funding by companies. They were limited to net profit of 3 years. That is, on an average, if you take the 3-year average of a company's net profit, only 7.5% of those profit can be given to political party. Don't have to remember this, just understand this. Earlier there were limitation for a company to fund a political party. Now the limitation has been removed. No upper limit. Anything, any amount you can fund. Not only that, companies need not to maintain records. Which political party ko diya? Nahi. When? What? No. What they will say in their annual statement, they will say electoral bonds this much or political funding this much. FCRA, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. You must be familiar about this, but your familiarity might be limited to NGOs. Right? You must, when this act was brought in 1976, it was not essentially meant to curb the funding of NGOs. No, it was to initially stop the foreign influence through companies, through governments in the internal affairs of this country, which means the politicians, the government officials, judges were barred from taking hospitalities, gifts and funds from the foreign countries or foreign entities. But later the orientation changed. Anyway, so according to this, political parties were barred from taking foreign contribution. Right. FCRA 2010 was amended in 2016 earlier. Right. Because political parties, despite this ban, were taking money from foreign agencies. Delhi High Court found out that this is a wrong practice and they penalized them. Right. What the government did? They amended FCRA, which means that political parties can take funds from foreign entities. In this 2017, they amended that foreign companies having subsidiaries in India or majority stake in India can also fund the political parties. Now see, this is the ecosystem. This is the landscape in which the entire electoral bonds have been introduced. A simple commonsensical reading of this provision. Now, do you think that Fine, if you want transparency, electoral bond, fine, you can bring. But what is the need of this? The entire thing. Because if you are saying that no need to make any contribution report, no need to give it to the Election Commission of India, so ultimately you are undermining transparency. Don't you think so? The Election Commission should know that how this free and fair election. Free and fair election is a very big term. There are multiple angles to it, multiple dimensions to it. And one of the instrumentality, the fundamental institution in this country to maintain free and fair election is the Election Commission of India. And the root of electoral reform in this country starts from political funding. So political funding, who gives to whom? How much is getting? Whether there is undue influence. This has been removed through this. IT Act. The income tax authorities have no idea who is giving to whom, whether it is black or white, which money it is. I am claiming that I am an individual, I have given to political party. I am claiming this much I have given. I will show in my return, but I will not show that which political party, which date, no details. Not only that, I am not talking about me, let's say for the political party. The political party will get exemption, but will not disclose. The reason why this 20,000 cap was kept earlier, why? There must have been a reason that all those political parties having 20,000, getting the 20,000 or more contribution should disclose the details to the Election Commission as well as the Income Tax Department. Why? Yes, to bring more transparency in the funding. Because I am a company, right? I am funding a political party. There are two reasons why I fund a political party. One is that me as a company is ideologically committed to the program of that party, right? Second is that I want something quid pro quo, crony capitalism is what we say. If people come to know, the election authorities come to know that this company is funding this party, right? And earlier there were limitations. Through political funding, companies can influence public policy. One of the reasons why in international system, when we talk about even developing countries as well as the West, the entire political funding is in the public domain. One of the major reasons is that democracy and government will be hijacked. People who have money, they will fund political party. People who do not have money cannot fund. There is a saying in English, क्या है वो? One who pays the piper calls the tune. Piper, जो उसको पैसा देता है वो उसी का धुन गाता है. That's what I am trying to say. The reason why political funding is transparent in Western countries is because politics is about public policy and public interest. When funds are given and which is non-transparent, it is very much possible that public policy will be skewed or manipulated for shooting the interest of that political that group. And it has happened not only in India, it has happened in many countries. Economic Survey 2017-18, if you read the Economic Survey 2018, there are some case studies of World Bank, how it has happened in Ukraine, how it has happened in South Africa. There are multiple, it has happened in Brazil. And this political funding is not happening only national level, national, regional, local, everywhere it is happening. The outcomes of election can be influenced through political funding. The reason why there is a cap of candidate expenditure, why? There is a limit, right? If you are contesting for an MLA election or the general election, there is a limit for candidate expenditure. Why it is so? That is what people who does not have access to resources cannot win. Campaign is very expensive, very huge. The reason some checks and balances are incorporated through these laws is to have free and fair election. Free and fair election also require free and fair information. People should know who's funding whose political party, because then only they will come. They can make an informed choice. Let's say I'll take an example. In one constituency, there is a conflict between the tribals as well as an industry. Industry wants to acquire land. The industry has polluted the rivers and the habitats of the tribal people. There is an election there. A political party is contesting. If the industry group funds that political party, which says that we will help the industry, we want industrialization, and let's say the manifesto of that political party is against the tribals, the tribal will come to know, this is against us, so it is against my interest. So it is the only weapon a poor person in India has is vote. Adult franchise is given. Why? Because it is the only way for people who do not have resources to influence public policy. One political party in India has more than 4,000 crore. It has declared it is annual income. Recently, 4,000 crore rupees. And most of them are coming from unknown sources. And that party is running this country. Now, how will you make informed choices? The question is, in order to have a free and fair election, information which is freely available is required. As election requires money, who provides money to whom needs to be clearly understood. One of the reasons for bringing electoral bond is that it will help donor anonymity according to the government, which means, let's say, I am a political party. You want to give me money, but there is another political party. If that political party come to know that you are funding me and you might have some problem, let's say, hypothetically speaking, that political party came to power. So your interest will be compromised, you will be harassed. So anonymity, according to the government, gives a kind of incentive to people to fund. Fearlessness. But anonymity is, instead of promoting transparency, instead of making free and fair election, is creating further deterioration of free and fair election. Transparency is very much required. Campaign financing or political party funding should be in the open. There is no reason why this has been done. Election Commission of India has filed an affidavit in the Supreme Court criticizing the electoral bond scheme. It's a retrograde step against transparency and free and fair election. This is the Election Commission says. Why do you think the Election Commission says so? The people who fund political parties, especially, as I mentioned, more than 90% of the electoral bonds are the denomination of 1 crore. Now, you tell me who has the capacity to fund a political party within the denomination of 1 crore? A rickshaw puller, a chai wala, a group D person? कौन करेगा? Absolutely. So this is a mechanism through which, and you tell me, why do they waste this much of money? Charity, philanthropy, altruism. What is the reason? If business, primary objective of business to earn profit, why do you think they will invest this?
To skew the public policy.
To influence public policy, pressure group. Business is one of the most influential pressure group in this country, not only in India, everywhere. This is what is happening. That is the reason this has been challenged. Now you tell me, what is the current approach as far as elections are concerned in India? In the sense that, are we finding lot of initiatives from various quarters for addressing, let's say, criminalization of politics? Let's say enforcement of model code of conduct. Let's say voter education by Election Commission of India. I am saying the approach of the government, the people in general, as well as the courts, is to have reforms in electoral system. When I say electoral system, it is not only limited to electoral funding. The word system has to be kept in mind. A system means a combination of so many things which makes a unity, which is a human system. My hands, my body, my eyes, everything, it makes a system. So election system means funding, campaigning, political party, Election Commission of India, electoral law, everything is a part of it. Now, Supreme Court of India recently said, it has ordered that candidates should declare their criminal antecedents within 48 hours. Political parties should disclose their antecedent, criminal records, everything within 48 hours of their selection by the political party, and this should be published in newspapers, local newspapers too. Why? Why? Because people will make an informed choice. The person is criminal. It's a different thing that despite this, it is not that people do not know the person is criminal, but still they are voting for it. That's a different issue altogether. But theoretically speaking, it is being done. Election Commission of India has also been taking so much measures. There have been many PILs and petitions in the Supreme Court. Now, on the one hand, the approach is transparency, reform, electoral reforms, model code of conduct reforms, whether it should be made legal or not. On one hand, there are attempts towards reform. On the other hand, this is what is happening. The electoral bond scheme is detrimental to the free and fair election of this country, because it ensures an opaque political financing system in which the rich individuals and the corporate houses can easily influence the public policy and thereby subvert democracy and public interest. Free and fair democracy, free and fair election is a fundamental requirement of functioning democracy. A functioning democracy works on the basis of right to know. When you interlink these two, an individual should know that whom I am voting, how this political party is functioning, how this political party is being funded. Now you tell me why there is manifesto. Political parties have manifesto. Why? Inform the citizen that this is what we are going to do. Another debate was going on, freebie culture. Political parties are what? Political parties are offering freebies. And what are these freebies? Free electricity freebie. Tell me.
Sir, telephones, TV sets.
Are they freebie? Or are they?
Something that is irrational that cannot be
And,
just.
okay, what is, okay, fine, agree. What is irrational?
Like, for example,
Not example, what is irrational? Tell me.
is no rationale behind it. No,
That's what I'm asking.
list.
It is not possible to properly define what is a freebie. There is no legal definition, there cannot be. Right, that's an entirely different issue, but I'm trying to say that there is a debate that political parties are offering freebies and they are giving it through this manifesto. And why they are giving it, or why are they offering? To influence the voter. To influence the voter. this influence is only through this proposal. The influence can also be through funding. Huh.
So, sir, there cannot be a clear distinction between a freebie and a welfare scheme.
Absolutely not. Yes, there cannot be. You see, a TV for a person, an urban educated upper class male, this is a category. For him, a TV is not an essential thing in the sense that he has it. If he does not have a TV, he can use his laptop. A person, a lower caste, casual labor, rural individual, for him it is a necessity. And in Corona, what happened? COVID-19, online education, everything shifted to online education. For us, mobile is a what? Necessity as well as something which has become part of our life. It is not a luxury for us. If our mobile is, let's say, damaged, we can buy something else. The point is that a mobile, if for an individual, for a student who wants to educate himself or herself, that online education, entire life is dependent upon that. So that is necessary for not only helping that student to learn, but also for advancing the life opportunities. So there are many goods and services which are necessary in the contemporary scenario. Free electricity means people who, the question is, there are many rich people in this country. Even if the government does not provide them electricity freely, they can buy electricity. Correct? But the question is, people who cannot afford electricity, what is wrong in giving them free? Because electricity is a force multiplier. In the sense that if you provide electricity, what happens? Let's say you can charge your mobile, you can use your laptop, right? There is light, student can study. Lot of things comes with that. Economic survey 2019-20 case study. Electricity in primary health centers in rural area, improved health outcome. The point is, it is very much difficult to categorize what is freebie and what is not freebie. It is highly contextual, right? And anyway, that's a different debate altogether. One more thing I want to tell you, tax concession to corporates. Are they freebies or are they something economically rational? Tax concession, thousands of crores of rupees. Selling the public sector undertaking at throwaway prices.
Like recent UK example, the government decided to, these trust decided to remove the concessions and the government all.
And she, yes, absolutely, she fell. Now the question is, whether it is developing country or developed countries, all provide welfare measures. During Corona, $600 per week was given by Mr. Trump to people who are unemployed in USA. Now, you call it what? Let people decide what freebie or what is not freebie. Not the government, not the court, not the intellectuals who do not require these basic things. There are some basic goods which are necessary for existence of human being. Let them provide. That is the necessity, that is the reason for existence of state. Then, if you are not providing, what is the necessity of a state or a government? Government का काम क्या है? State का क्या काम है?
If we not rationalize its use, then we are basically eroding our resource space.
We are not saying that we should give it in perpetuity. We are not saying that everything should be given. But people, those who require it, should be given. You are giving free food to people. Why? There are starvation death in this country. It happened.
But we are continuously giving free food. We are not focusing on the capacity building.
We should go, absolutely, we should do both simultaneously. These things are not mutually exclusive. the importance of a welfare scheme is its dispensability in the future. If a, a welfare scheme will achieve its objective, it is become obsolete later. Matlab, if you are able to remove a welfare scheme, then which means that we have achieved the objective of that welfare scheme. We should make people capable. Until unless we do not do that, then we should help the people. That is what the government is. Government or administration is service institution. Government is not business, it's not a corporate. I am not saying that you should give everything. There should be some kind of restriction. But the question is, who will decide? Can the court decide what is freebie or not? Can the government say? Let the people see that short-term gains or long-term gains. The reason why universal adult franchise is given in 1947 is because of that. Let people decide. You and me are not here to decide it. But as a UPSC aspirant, you can write this in this conclusion. There should be some restrictions. Rationality. Because resources, there has to be optimal resource utilization. People who require should be given. But it should not be an unhindered practice. It should not be a vote bank politics. In that way you can write. In that way you can formulate your opinion as a UPSC aspirant. The way UPSC aspirant thinks is different from a non-UPSC aspirant. Right? This way you can think. Anyway, Kant here, freebie.
Money and muscle power in elections. Money power in elections.
Money power in election, yes. The point I am saying, our approach today is towards more transparency. Whether it is in election system, whether it is in RTI, citizen charter, open government. But on the other hand, we are working upon undoing all those gains. This electoral bond scheme needs to be reformed. Because this gives the government of the day great control over political funding. One more, because only SBI can issue, State Bank of India and its authorized branches can issue electoral bonds. State Bank of India is a public sector bank under the control of Government of India. It vitiates the level playing field. 90% of electoral bonds is encashed by the ruling party at the center. As I mentioned, 4,000 crore is the annual income of one ruling party. The second most, मतलब second position पे कौन है? जो भी है उसका है 600 crore plus. 4,600. कांग्रेस पार्टी का 500 crore है. 2021-22 statement. 4,000. एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ खरीदना लोगों को कैसे हो रहा है? आई एम नॉट पॉइंटिंग आउट वन पॉलिटिकल पार्टी. इट इज लिंक्ड. दैट इज व्हाई आई सेड गंगोत्री ऑफ करप्शन इज पॉलिटिकल फंडिंग. इफ पॉलिटिकल फंडिंग reforms, then there is electoral reforms. You can bring changes in law. You can bring good candidates. Until and unless you cut this root of this problem, that is electoral.
Instead of curbing the financing, why don't we focus on the auditing and accounting of the political party?
Auditing and accounting, that's what I am telling you. This entire thing has been amended. This IT Act has been amended. Political parties need not to keep records of contribution through electoral bonds. And electoral bond system or this amendment in these laws did not ban cash, which means today you can, there is no limit on cash funding to political party. There is no limit through cash funding. Through cash you can fund a political party, no limit. Kya?
Sir, the courts can intervene to know the identity of.
That is what Supreme Court in 2019, the most famous Chief Justice of India, Ranjan Gogoi, he heard this case and he said, you understand the irony. Okay, he said, political parties should keep the records of contributions through electoral bonds and should submit to Election Commission of India in a sealed cover. क्यों भाई sealed cover? That is after the order of Supreme Court, and after the Supreme Court has not heard this case. Had the Supreme Court heard this case at that point in time, we would not have been discussing this issue right now, because it would have been over by then. मतलब 2018 का है ना? Still it is hearing. Now December 5 or 4 it will hear again. The trigger point of discussing this is government recently amended this electoral bond scheme. It has provided a window of 15 more days. See, electoral bond will be issued on January, April, July and October. 4 months for 10 days each or 15 days. 10 days, 15 days. Within 10 days, the political party has to encash it. And if it is a general election year, Lok Sabha election, then additional 30 days will be given for this electoral bond. Government of India recently amended electoral bond scheme, said that fine, we are living in a federal country. Why should we differentiate between general election and state election? We should also provide electoral bonds funding through political parties through extension of the window, 15 days per year. Whenever there is elections at the state level, they have provided that this electoral bonds will be available for 15 days in an election year. Now election is going to happen in Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh. It will happen in Karnataka later, right? So whenever there is election year in a state, 15 days is available and the government will notify which 15 days. So this 15 days is more. Earlier only for general election 30 days. Earlier क्या था? January, April, July and October plus 30 days in a general election year. मतलब 5 साल में एक बार आएगा. Now what they have done? 15 days extra. Whenever there is state election, 15 days extra. So every year you will find state election. So every year you have 50 more days. And this has happened when the Supreme Court is hearing the case. So government has the complete authority, right? It's a scheme, an executive scheme, not a law. Parliament has no control. When we compare the scheme of electoral bond with the framework of electoral funding or political funding in other countries, it suffers a lot of the standard of transparency. It is highly non-transparent, highly opaque. There is no doubt about this. We have provided some examples, UK, USA in this material, how it is there. People know it. People know who's funding whom. It is there in Brazil too. It is there in many developing countries. In South Africa it is. We can't say that only West is doing. No, it is not that. Even Russia has some kind of transparency. You know that? Russia. And India, you compare Russia with India then. So electoral bond scheme is something which requires reforms. That is why petitioners have approached the Supreme Court. The court is hearing the case. What kind of reforms? Now the question is, let's say, whether it should be reformed or should be abolished. Abolish. Central government is, this is the scheme of Government of India. Right. Government of India is vehemently supporting and supporting this scheme. Government of India says it is transparent. It will create, it will curb black money, etc., etc. Now you are going to write an examination which is, after which you will become part of Government of India. Now you decide. Right. Abolition is not the way. Right. We can make it more transparent. The fundamental thing is that whoever is giving the money to the party, it should be in the public domain. That's it. Whether it is individual or company.
But our logic of the scheme is donor anonymity, that's no scheme.
Donor anonymity is not a necessary thing for free and fair election. Donor, whenever there is donor anonymity, then it violates free and fair election.
And the whole logic behind the scheme.
The logic itself was illogical.
And then the scheme is illogical.
The government has the idea, government says this SFBI has the data. Do you think that the government does not know?
So, sir, just like before the electoral bond scheme was there, so there was much more transparency.
Absolutely, yes. Much more transparency, because if it is more than 20,000 rupees, then the party has to submit returns to income tax as well as the Election Commission of India. But having said that, 20,000 hai, theek hai. So what they do, political parties? 19,000, 18,000, 17,000, 2,000, 5,000. So most of their income is unknown sources. Getting what I'm trying to say? So if, let's say, I am a political party, my income is 100 rupees, hypothetically speaking. I would say there is a party, a national party, which has submitted return to this Election Commission of India prior to the Electoral Bond, which said that I have not received any contribution in excess of 20,000. But its annual statement says 600 crore rupees it has received.
But there should be some limitation on cash transfer now.
There is no limitation as such on cash transfer.
Cash का alternative electoral bond है, so that bank के through transaction हो तो
Electoral bond you can't purchase through cash. But there are many other mechanisms for funding political party. You can give money to political party will give you a receipt. अच्छा इतना दे दिया. There are coupon sales. You can organize meeting. You can give your let's say, what we say, this conference or something like that. You can fund travel. There are a lot of things through which this can be done. Political electoral bond is not the only mechanism for electoral funding. Had that been the case, then cash would have been gone. Parliamentary Standing Committee on Law and Justice recently asked the political parties and the stakeholders whether we should limit the cash contribution to political parties below 2,000. Election Commission of India recently has also written to the Ministry of Law and Justice and the Government of India saying that we should limit the cash to 2,000. There is no limitation as far as cash is concerned. Electoral bonds you cannot buy through cash. That is the only advantage that it has. Apart from that, nothing. But again, electoral bond, it is not necessary to have cash. See, it is very much possible to have cash in the system. I'll tell you how. Let's say, how many are there? 3, 5, 8, 9. This is the electoral bond. This is the bank gave me. I gave to you. He has given to you. He has given to you. It can go like that. Right? Let's say this electoral bond is worth 1 lakh rupees. Right? You have something, black money you have. You have some, you are a corrupt person, hypothetically speaking. So you have some money, right? What do? You give that money to him and you take the electoral bond, or he can take some commission. So it's a bearer instrument. Bearer instrument means bearer, one who carries. ठीक है, मैंने खरीद लिया, मेरे गिर गए यहाँ पे, ये उठा लिया, ये इसका हो गया. That is what bearer instrument is. So it is not necessary that donor is contributing. There are multiple loopholes. Ingenuity, contracting. We have provided one kind of one this. I have an example. If I can show you that, how it is there. Yes, this one. You see this? Government favors business house 500 crore contract. It's a contract. 5,000 crore contract, 50-50 deal. मतलब contract जो है, that is contract is for 25,000 rupees, or let's say the value of the actual project is 1,000 crore, hypothetically speaking, 50-50 deal. And it is possible that this contract never comes up, in the sense that the project actually never starts on the ground. It has happened. So government favors business, contract has given. Business has to show 2,500 crore as donation to ruling party in balance sheet or find cash. Anyway, leave it. So 2,500 crore should be given donation to political party. Now, If payment is white, party need to declare name or donor to IT department. It is through cash, or let's say if the donation is through mechanism other than electoral bond, it has to be shown. Otherwise, 25,000, 2,500 crore has to be broken down. It will be a very humongous exercise, difficult exercise.
It's an accounting exercise, it's not.
Eh?
It's an accounting exercise. That's what.
You see, you have to show that 25,000 crore, fine. The least possible amount is 19,909. Now you divide 25,000 crore to 19,999. How many person or entity you have to create? And it is very much possible to know. It is, if you are giving this to some the election commission or IT agencies, it is possible for them to analyze the transaction and find out some kind of kuch to hai. Right. So, if payment is white, party need to declare everything. Yes. With election bond in place, company will purchase bond. Company will purchase bond of 2,500 crore from the State Bank of India. Company's balance sheet will only show purchase of election bond without naming party. Company, that account, statements account will have this much, 2,500 crore. Party will show all 25 crore as white income to EC and IT department return without revealing quid pro quo. You see, I have given 5,000 crore contract. My deal is that I have to give 25,000 crore to him. Now, how will I do that? I will do this through this, but this will not be revealed. If 50-50 deal हुआ है, ये पता नहीं चलेगा. Clear what I am trying to say? This is a hypothetical example, but this is what is happening. This might happen. I won't say what is happening because we don't have any proof as yet. So this is a possible scenario. If it is a possible scenario, then it is a very much possibility. There are other issues like you have made foreign contribution through foreign companies eligible through electoral bond. Foreign companies can influence the election system in India. Very plain. Isn't it? Foreign companies having majority stake or subsidiaries in India can fund political parties through electoral bonds. Intervention or influence of foreign agencies or foreign parties in election system have undermined democracy, have dismantled or toppled democratically elected governments in world over. Latin America is a classic example. Chile, Nicaragua, Guatemala, lot of countries. The point we are saying that the reason FCRA 1976 was brought is to resist this, stop this undue influence of political foreign agencies, foreign government, foreign parties in the electoral system. We can have electoral bond, but we cannot understand the logic behind amending all those sections. Company Act, FCRA, why? Why this Representation of People Act was amended? Why Income Tax Act was amended? You remove this amendment, then you have this IT electoral bond, no problem. At least kuch to hai, better than something. It is better, but the question is there is no rationale for all this amendment. And this amendment was passed through Finance Act as a money bill. Now, how Representation of People Act is a money bill? You know the definition of money bill. Now, so, neither Company Act nor RPA, FCRA, okay, this is fine, IT Act you can have. But these cannot be passed through money bill. This is also under challenge. The way electoral bond system was established by amending various laws through Finance Act 2017 was also under challenge. In fact, is also under challenge. It's a very important aspect of UPSC. I mean, question, this money bill. What is a money bill? Whether money bill has become an instrument to bypass the upper house of the parliament. Supreme Court in Aadhaar case has referred the issue of money bill and Aadhaar and etc. to a constitutional bench. Unfortunately, the court has not heard the issue yet. The point we are saying, this is something called a colorable exercise of the constitutional mandate. Transparency is very much required. Political funding, the political parties require funds, yes, definitely. But the question is how this funding is done. Who is funding? Because I mentioned the person who gives the money will call the shots. The function of the government, political parties form the government. They have an agenda. And whoever funds them, they also try to implement the suggestions, or let's say implement, to form policies to further the interest of the financiers. So you will influence public policy, thereby undermining public interest. Transparency in political funding is very much required, and electoral bond is the last thing, last instrument for that transparency. The way electoral bond is conceived and implemented and amended does not show that there is willingness for cleaning or cleansing the political system, the political system in India. Amendment to this act through Finance Act cannot be justified. Having said that, instead of abolition of electoral bonds, some reforms, some fundamental reforms have to be brought to the scheme of electoral bonds. Number one, donor identity has to be given in public. Number two, these amendments should be taken back in the sense that the act should be amended. Companies should be made mandatory, parties should be made mandatory to have the contribution records and should be given to the concerned authority, including ECI and Income Tax Authority. Number three, political parties should be come under RTI. You know, political parties? Hey, RTI के अंदर है political parties? पक्का? नहीं है?
Sir, Section 2 they amended na and excluded political parties from there.
No, political parties are not expressly excluded from RTI. No. Central Information Commission has asked political parties to make themselves subject to the Right to Information Act. Political parties did not obey so far. Why?
The funding will go away.
That's a different debate. The point I'm trying to say, relevant provisions of RTI needs to be made applicable to political parties, not all. And why it is not all, that we'll discuss whenever there is time. I'm saying transparency is very much important. Do you remember something called, I have taken an ED on internal elections in political parties? याद है? Internal elections in political parties. Yes. Yes, internal party democracy. Why? That's okay, but fine, that's the event. But why? Internal elections in political parties, internal democracy. Political parties are the vehicle for democratic government. The instrument which is forming the government should be themselves democratic. There are multiple benefits of it. Congress party has conducted an humongous exercise for electing a president. On the one hand, there is increasing democratization in political party. On the other hand, there are attempts to reform the entire electoral system. But now we have some kind of scheme which is trying to undo this approach. Any doubt? You can read this material later, right? Anything you want to ask about electoral bond, electoral system?
In foreign countries, it is said 70% funding is publicly known, 30% is not known.
It is not like that, because foreign countries means what?
Mature democracies, USA, UK, maybe France.
There might be differences in countries, right? There might be differences, but there are practices which are focusing on enhancing transparency in election. People know who funds whom. It is possible that some aspects of funding might not be known, right? But majority of the funding, corporate who's funding whom, it is very much known. There is lobbying in this USA. The MP, the member of the Senate as well as the House of Representatives, they declare that we have this interest and we will be having, we'll try to promote the policy and laws for this industry or this group or this section. What is that word? No. Interest disclosure register. Whenever a member is taking an oath, before taking an oath, has to sign it, has to disclose the interest. मतलब मेरा कोई काम है, whether I have an industry, I am a business person, right? Whether I have been funded by this, etc., all those interests should be disclosed. It is very much possible that some aspects of funding might not be known.
So suppose if there are some 10 legislators funded by some gun lobby or military industrial complex, and they are openly showing that look, they are funded by these people and this is democracy and they are going to further their own interest. Now, how is this democracy in any way?
How is this democracy? Because in any case,
by way of transparency, you are again making a mockery of the same democracy.
no. Ultimately, it is possible that the beauty of a legislature or representative body is that it is representative. It represents not only one section.
People knows what are they.
It represents multiple sections. If you have a gun lobby, you might have an anti-gun lobby.
Anti-gun lobby is not big enough to
No,
fund
it's
so much.
no, it's not the case. That's a one point. In the contrary, I would say, in USA the media is independent. Why? Crowd funded. Maximum funding to the media is given going through crowd funding. People are funding. Digital media in India is almost independent. Why? People are funding it. Similarly, it is not that only gun lobby is funding. Right? It is not that only gun lobby is funding the entire the members of House of Senate and this representative. No. When you are open, it creates pressure on you. Ultimately, let's say I am an individual. Let's say I would say yes, I want gun laws in the sense that I do not want gun control laws. When I am standing up to speak against the actions of the government, in the sense that I want no control on the guns. My action, my speech, my approach is telecasted. It is known to people. When I am contesting, I have to also satisfy the interest of the constituency. And it is not that entire constituency of that MP is all pro-gun. Or let's say the MP is the only one who contested the election. No, there is opposition. It is deliberation, it is debate, contestation, it happens. So transparency is very much required. You can support, not a problem. In any case, people will have interest. So it is better that you disclose that interest. That is,
Sir, the anonymity clause that is there in this one, the rationale behind seems logical. Like if the name of the donors is revealed, then it can also lead to like it is given that it can lead to post-poll intimidation and like the government can actually victimize these.
should the government do that?
No, but that is a possibility if it is out in the open. So
Then there are multiple other possibilities too. It is known that who votes to at the booth level. When there is election, at the booth level, the political parties will know that this much of percentage vote is given to this party got this much. Voter profiling at the booth level is also available, which means that even after voting, the political party will come to know. It is not only through funding. Let's say booth number A, it has 1000 voters. One political party got only 20 votes, another got rest. Now this political party will come to know, win it. The possibility does not mean that we should we should do it. The possibility of threatening people who do not fund political party or funds one political party is against democracy. That is illegal.
The same thing can be even applied at community level. Like even if certain community doesn't vote for a particular party, then it can't make policies against that. Same.
A party contest, an individual contest on a party. Once a party forms the government is for all. Not for the person who voted, not for the person who does not vote. Not for this community or for that community.
Same thing can be applied here as well. Even if somebody donates or doesn't donate.
Yeah, definitely. See, why do you think so? If a person wants to donate, do you think that a person should be coerced or forcefully said, okay, give me this money? It is my choice that I should give to A or B or C. You cannot force me. You can encourage me, persuade me, fine. And because I did not give this to that person, you cannot frame policies or you cannot harass me. That cannot be a logic. This issue should not have come. The idea that a person whose name is known, then the person will be victimized by a political party A or B, C is antithetical to democracy. This idea, this fear should not have been there. If it is there, which means we are not still a democracy. Is there any free and fair election then? What is Election Commission of India doing then? What is the administration is doing? Transparency is very much necessary. Anonymity is against transparency. You see, as I mentioned, let's take the data. 90% of electoral bonds is more than, the denomination of 90% of electoral bonds is 1 crore. Now, you and me, all other people, how much money, if at all we have, we give to political party?
But that raises the question why the corporate is funding only the ruling party, why not the opposition?
Because if it is known, if it is known that this corporate is funding this party and the corporate is getting every contract, every airport, every port, every policy, that does not rationalize. That undermines rationality. The purpose of anonymity is not to further peculiar interest or private interest or corporate interest. If at all there has to be anonymity, it should be for public interest or protecting the individual. Corporates are funding 90% of electoral bonds are in the denomination of 1 crore or more, and 1 crore is funded by business individuals or corporate. If it is not, then we will come to know why the government is taking this policy. A person whose net worth was very less before 2014 is the richest person, I think, or second richest person in this world. How? Whenever something is given, it goes to one or two groups in this country. Opposition parties say. Government says, no, we are transparent. We believe the government. But just believing is not okay. We should some evidence, facts. Show us. More than 75% of electoral bonds are encashed by one political party. Now why? Government knows this. कौन किसको कर रहा है? नहीं है. SBI itself said through an RTI reply that every electoral bond have some kind of trail through which we can identify. If it is an aberration, electoral bond, in the entire system or functioning of the government of India, then we could have said, fine, this might be a wrong thing. But if you see a lot of other things in this country, right, then there might be some suspicion. And when there is suspicion, there won't be any trust in government or governance. It will ultimately create problems for the government and the party. The logic is convoluted, opposite. Anonymity is given in order to further corporate interest, not public interest. The data speaks for itself. And if you want to believe otherwise, good luck for you. But the conclusion is this: electoral bond requires reforms. And government, who's known to take radical reforms and steps as per the public demand or public interest or public mood, for instance farm laws, लोगों ने प्रोटेस्ट कर दिया, गवर्नमेंट को लगा अच्छा गलत है, सही नहीं है, तो वापस ले लिया. Parliament said data protection bill has lot of problems, joint parliamentary committee withdrew. So government is willing to discuss, learn and improve, and government has shown the way. If right. So the government can rethink on the scheme. Now we have Supreme Court which is hearing the case. Let the Supreme Court decide. Supreme Court जो कह रहा है उसको लिख लो एग्जाम में, ठीक है. चलें आगे. हाँ बोलो.
In this context, we can say state funding of elections with other secondary electoral reforms in a long term would be a better alternative than an electoral bond which is reformed.
ठीक है. State funding of election.
With other alternative.
State funding of election is not state funding of political parties. Two different things. State funding of election, only election. Political parties, right? Not only election. This is entire working of political party. Election is only this. यहाँ पे क्या है? Political party is an organization, office bearers, पैसा, campaigning, people, office, protest, mobilization, lot of things they do. Electoral funding is only one, I would say, 10% of the activity of political party. You cannot fund the entire political party structure, right? Electoral funding is not political party funding. These two things have to be kept in mind. But again, state funding of election, that's a different topic altogether. But again, as far as India is concerned, complete state funding of either election or political party is not desirable, is not viable. Why it is so, that we will discuss later. Anyway, next क्या है? Next topic?
Constitutional locus, concurrent list and
Okay.
education. And challenge for Indian federalism.
Yes. Constitutional locus, concurrent list
And education.
and federalism. This is a very technical and difficult area because there are a lot of dimensions which we have tried to club together. Right. So it requires some kind of better attention and focus. What is the context? Why we are discussing this? University education, or let's say differently, Supreme Court has given some judgments in which Supreme Court said the vice chancellors of universities at state should be appointed as per the norms of UGC, but the vice chancellors are not appointed as per the norms of UGC, hence they cannot hold that office. Supreme Court removed some vice chancellors of some states' universities because UGC regulation and State University Act are conflicting. दूसरा वर्ड है repugnance, are in conflict or are repugnant. Supreme Court said, cases we have given, you remember only one case because it has 3 to 4. In Gujarat, Uttarakhand, West Bengal and in Kerala. University vice chancellors of state universities. I am using the word state university because universities can also be established by states through act of the legislature. These are state universities. So state universities can be established through acts of state legislature, and the appointment of vice chancellors, selection, etc. are governed by the acts of state legislature. But this appointment, Supreme Court said, in some cases violate what is prescribed under UGC Regulation 2018. So UGC Regulation 2018 and State University Act came into conflict. When there is conflict between a union legislation and a state legislation, which will prevail? Sure. Concurrently. And what, anyway, fine. So in general, mark my word, I am using the word in general. In general, whenever there is a conflict between a union legislation and state legislation, state union legislation will prevail. Now the question is, this is not a legislation, it's a regulation. It's a regulation, not a legislation. Whether this regulation override a law made by the state legislature. No? See, this is regulation. What is a regulation? Rules. Then what are rules?
The rules framed for the
What are rules?
a framework how to implement the act. What was the
Rules are the nitty-gritty that administration makes in the broader framework of parent law.
Yes, fine. Broader framework of? So there is something called law, there is something called rules, there is something called regulation. Hierarchy. Number 1, 2, 3. One minute. Legislative enactment of a legislature is a law. Enactment of a legislature is a law, which means what is made by legislature is law in that sense. So law is made by legislature. Law is made by legislature. Rule is made by executive, which means government. Council of Minister with PM as the head or the cabinet. In the government of India makes rules. Law provides authority to the government to make rules for the proper implementation of the law. Rule making power of the executive is known as what? Delegated legislation or subordinate legislation or executive legislation or bhi kuch. Anyway, that is what is rules. Who will make rule? Government of India and or government ministries can make rule. IT rules, who has made? Which ministry? Ministry of? IT. Environmental rules? MOF. See, they are making rules. Here it is what? Regulation. Regulations are made by either administration or independent regulatory bodies. Regulations are directions issued by relevant entities for the implementation of a law or for the implementation of a rule, because regulation is coming and after law, rule and law and rule. So regulation is made by either by administration or independent regulatory body. Administration means, I am giving an example, traffic regulation. कौन बनाता है? Traffic regulation. Whenever, let's say, there is movement of VIP, or let's say whenever there is Independence Day parade, or something like that. We see traffic regulation issued by traffic police administration. District magistrate also issue some orders, notifications, circulars, regulations. Similarly, RBI regulations, SEBI regulations. RBI is statutory body, UGC is also statutory body. University Grants Commission Act 1956 provides authority to UGC to make regulation for the coordination and standardization of education in this country. UGC made regulation, law is made by legislature, whether state or union, whether regulations override law. That's the question we are going to discuss. Right? It's a very difficult area, I know. But after the discussion, when you go back and you read the entire thing, it becomes clear. Right? So, before going to this, we should know the fundamental arrangement of education system in the constitution. I am using the word education system. System, not education. Now tell me, education system under which list? Concurrent list. Whenever there is my class, you are all requested to bring this. Constitution of India, PM Bakshi or any other author. Education system, not education. Again, I would say it is available in union list, it is available in state list, it is also there in concurrent list. It is spread over all three. Union list, 63, 64, 65, 66. Don't have to remember this. But when you are writing an answer, union list has this, including this. Our focus will be on 66. Because this 66 give power to the parliament to make law for standardization, coordination of education throughout the country. And that is why UGC Act was enacted and UGC was set up. State list, entry 14, entry 32. Entry 14, क्या है? Agriculture, including agricultural education. 32 क्या है? University, which means state can set up university. Concurrent list, this is which list? Entry क्या है? 33. Which entry? Education. 25. Education. This is termed as education, including vocational, technical, medical, etc. etc. Clear? Now I am saying that education system is spread over all the three lists. When it is so, if it is so, now fine. Let me ask you, what is the meaning of education? Or let's say, if I am saying education, what is the image you have? What all subjects, what all areas come under education? Education के अंदर क्या क्या आता है?
Funding, regulation, academic curriculum.
हाँ, उसके बाद और research और okay, I am going to write here. Tell me क्या क्या है? Funding, okay, F. Teaching, then research, then academic curriculum, then appointment, selection, infrastructure, students, examination, evaluation. I mean, it's endless, isn't it? Lot of things. So education as an area will have lot of sub areas in it. Now you have given power to various legislatures to make law. Article 32 says that state university is a list is an entry under state list. State can make law. Now if state sets up a university through an act, The act will deal with which all areas? What is the university? Name of the university? Who will be appointing the chancellor? Who will be the chancellor of the university? Who will be the vice chancellor of the university? I mean, qualification, appointment, selection, what all subjects it will be taught, what is the area of importance, whether there will be research, something like that, who will fund, autonomy, entire thing will be part of that law. So if it is so, will this come into conflict with this? Entry 25 concurrent list. क्या कहता है? Education, including technical education, medical education, universities, subject to the provision of 63, 64, 65, 66, etc., etc. Fine. Let's come to this 66. Entry 66, list 1. List 1, entry 66. क्या कहता है? Coordination and determination of standards, institutions for higher education or research, scientific and technical education. कुछ समझ में आया क्या है? Overlapping. That's what I'm trying to say. A law made by the state legislature under the entry university will deal with subjects under this. But the question is, a law is made, hypothetically speaking, on vice chancellor. A law is made on a university. It provided for appointment of a vice chancellor through a procedure, which is different from UGC Act. So which law will prevail? If there is a conflict between a state legislation and a union legislation, which law will prevail? Union legislation will prevail. Where it is given? कहीं लिखा है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के अंदर कि prevail होगा? है? नहीं है? है? नहीं है? है? कहाँ पे? है? Doctrine of repugnancy, that is in Article 254. No. I am not saying repugnancy. I am saying when there is repugnancy between union law and state law, the union law will prevail if this is given in the constitution. I am not asking whether repugnancy is given in the constitution. Repugnancy means inconsistency, conflict. ये कुछ और कह रहा है, ये कुछ और कह रहा है, conflict. कह रहा है कहीं? Article 246 clause 1 of the constitution provides for federal supremacy. Federal supremacy, which means whenever there is a conflict between a state law and union law will prevail. Article 246 clause 1 है बताओ कहाँ है?
This itself means repugnancy. The conflict itself is called repugnancy.
Conflict is repugnancy. When there is repugnancy, then in general federal law, union law will prevail. It is given in 246(1).
So 246(1) talks about doctrine of repugnancy.
No, 246(1) talks about doctrine of federal supremacy. I will come to repugnancy, don't worry. Why am I discussing this? 2019 mains examination. घर जाना, पेपर उठाना और देखना. क्या देखना है? GF2, yes, harmonious construction, federal supremacy. Right, very important. Anyway, कहाँ है 246? Subject matters of laws made by parliament and by the legislatures of the state. 246 clause 1. Notwithstanding anything clause 2 and clause 3. बस. Notwithstanding anything clause 2 and clause 3. Notwithstanding मतलब clause 2 और clause 3 में कुछ भी लिखा कोई मतलब नहीं है. Union will have power over this. Whenever the word is notwithstanding is given, it means the given provisions within the article or in the constitution, notwithstanding anything in the constitution, अगर ऐसा लिखा है, that article will prevail over every aspect of constitution. We have another AD, I'll explain that later. But when it is given notwithstanding anything in this article, तो वो जो clause है वो prevail होगा. ठीक है? The question is, union law will prevail over this federal supremacy. Conflict can happen between state law and union law. True? It can happen between a law made by the state legislature within state list, a law made by the union legislature in the union list. दोनों होगा. Concurrent list, both can make law. Still there can be conflict. On a single entry or single area, state made a law, union made a law. Coming into conflict, which will prevail? Union. Article 246 talks about federal supremacy. Article 254(2) talks about repugnancy, doctrine of repugnancy. Whenever there is repugnancy, union legislature will prevail. Mark my word. The word repugnancy is limited to concurrent list. Doctrine of repugnancy is limited to concurrent list. Which means there is a conflict between state law on a concurrent list entry and union law on the same entry. Federal supremacy will come into play when there is conflict between union law in union list, state law in state list. But in general, when we say repugnancy, we tend to see that union law, state law. We do not differentiate. But technically, strictly speaking, there is a differentiation. Right? Clear हो रहा है या ऐसे ही बोल रहा हूँ मैं? Difficult है because you need to. This is not a foundation batch, right? I cannot teach you everything, but this is necessary for it. That is why I'm telling you. After the class, you can ask. Otherwise, we won't be able to finish it. Now the question is, in general, it's fine. UGC Act, union law. This is made by state legislature. This will prevail. But the question is whether UGC Act provides for appointment of vice chancellors. This state legislature law provides for appointment of vice chancellor through a process. UGC Act, hypothetically speaking, if it provides for a procedure for appointment of a vice chancellor, then if it is in conflict with this will prevail. Or whether UGC Act gives power to the UGC to make regulations for the appointment of vice chancellors, then also it will prevail. Section 26 of UGC Act provides power to UGC to make regulations. But the parent act does not give power to UGC to regulate the appointment and selection of vice chancellors. Supreme Court said UGC regulation will prevail over state legislature act. The question is whether regulation is above laws. If you are taking education in the concurrent list, then there is repugnancy. There can be repugnancy, state law and union law. But the question is the law. What is law? The term law in the Article 254 is law made by the legislature or the parliament. It is not subordinate legislation. It does not deal with it. I am saying a law made by the parliament has provisions A in concurrent list. A law made by the state legislature on the same field has provision B. If both are conflicting, A will prevail, which is given in the constitution, Article 254. But it is dealing with law, legislative instrument, not rule, not regulation.
But Article 13 includes law as support.
Article 13 limits itself to part 3 of the constitution.
Nowhere else law is defined.
the law is widely explained or described in Article 13 because it is dealing with fundamental right. That is the entire trajectory of basic structure. Or let's say whether constitutional amendment is a law or not. You remember that? That is right. So a law, as far as Article 13 is concerned, includes wide range of things, rules, regulations, orders, circulars, everything, because it is impacting fundamental right. Otherwise, government will say, Acha, this is a law, this law is not impacting, I am issuing a circular. It can impact, right? That is the reason. But none of the other places in the constitution, the law is equated with rules and regulation. Law means law. So, the judgment of the Supreme Court vis-a-vis this constitutional separation between state and union and giving power to UGC is not in the spirit of the constitution. Because, why am I saying? A law is made by state legislature, tracing its power to 32. UGC has the power to make regulation for standardization, coordination of education. But UGC Act does not deal with process of appointment of Vice Chancellor. Or neither UGC Act expressly provide power to the UGC to make regulation to regulate the process of appointment. In that case, state legislature should prevail over UGC regulation. One example I will give you, not this. To explain this further. RBI. Now you tell me RBI. RBI Act. Which list? Union list, state list? Union list. Cooperative societies. Which list? State list. State list. 2020 RBI Act, not RBI Act, this Banking Regulation Act, B&R Act 1949 was amended by the Parliament. Why? Because due to increasing corruption, mismanagement of cooperative banks at the state level, especially urban cooperative banks, RBI felt that, the government felt that, Parliament felt that there should be proper regulation, supervision, control over the urban cooperative banks. This was amended, Banking Regulation Act was amended, and RBI supervision control was extended to urban cooperative banks. Urban cooperative banks are cooperative societies under state list. Now I want to ask you, why this amendment was done? Why this amendment in the Act was done? It was, this RBI is a statutory body established by the Parliament, tracing its authority to union list. It has the power to make regulations, right? RBI regulation we see, or order, circular regulation, etc., etc. Why do you think RBI did not make a regulation, and in that regulation it extended its control and supervision to urban cooperative bank? Why RBI did not issue a regulation saying that we will exercise control over the functioning of urban cooperative bank, provided, not provided, although urban cooperative bank is a entry in the state list, cooperative societies.
Because urban cooperative banks are not under RBI directly.
That's true, but I am saying what sorry? Absolutely, that's the idea. The reason why this amendment was done, because this act did not provide RBI power to control urban cooperative bank. Urban cooperative bank is established by state through tracing its power to this cooperative societies. So this amendment was done, which extended RBI's power. Now it's a law. It's also based upon a law. Which will prevail? Federal supremacy. Same idea we are talking about here. UGC. Instead of this amendment was not done UGC. UGC made regulations and Supreme Court extended regulation to law. Clear? This. Not only that. Okay, one argument can be fine. Ultimately, a law is made by the legislature for instance Parliament, and Parliament cannot fill the flesh and bones of the law. It can only provide skeletal form. So it cannot provide for every functioning activities of a independent regulatory body. So it should have some flexibility. We agree. But you know that all the regulations made by the independent regulatory body or regulatory bodies, or for that matter, all the rules made by the government of India should be placed on the floor of the house. And the process is known as laying. क्या कहते हैं उसको? Laying. Laying the regulations and rules in the legislature. If it is central level, executive will place, independent regulatory body, they will place, and Parliament should approve it. In general, Parliament should approve regulations. Then only the regulation will have validity. And that is why we have something called a committee on subordinate legislation. Committee on subordinate legislation we have, UPSC asked, 2021 I think, PT examination. Remember? So, laying, which means Parliament will scrutinize whether this regulation you are formulating, whether rules you are making are as per the authority given by the Act or not, whether you are encroaching upon, or whether you are exceeding your authority. Now you can say UGC regulation might have placed in the Parliament might have approved. If it is approved, then it becomes a part of law, then the law will prevail over the state legislature. Is it so? It can be or it cannot be. That's not the question. The question is, this issue of UGC and state universities was discussed by the Supreme Court in 2015. We have provided a case, Kalyani Madhivanan, 2015. In that, Supreme Court said, UGC regulation are approved by the Parliament. So, although they are subordinate legislation, they are act of Parliament. They are part of the Parliamentary Act. So, UGC regulation will prevail over the state legislature, provided state legislature adopts UGC regulation. Here, no adoption was done. So, early Supreme Court said this is the position. Now, the Supreme Court, another coordinate bench means same strength of the bench, said no, UGC regulation will prevail. The fundamental idea of discussing this entire thing is this: whether education should be centralized or decentralized, whether we should have a uniformity in education. There is a petition in Madras High Court which has challenged the shifting of education from state list to concurrent list. We have provided some kind of information on this. Education were in state list, 1976, shifted. Some states or some sections of society feel that there is increasing centralization of education system in this country. Although the government is trying to centralize, the Supreme Court is also aiding the centralization. Whenever there is centralization, it is affecting federalism. One more thing I want to tell you. See, UGC recently instituted something called CUET. क्या है? Common University Entrance Test. Also for PG. Now you tell me, for which universities these are applicable? किसके लिए applicable है? Now, why only Central University? Why only Central University? Why can't UGC issue a circular or regulation for that matter, saying that it will be applicable to all state universities and all state universities will take students as per the score of this CUET or whatever? Why UGC did not do it? Why? Parent Act did not provide power to it. Clear? Is it? But if you go with the Supreme Court's current judgment, regulations of UGC will override state university laws. So tomorrow, by taking this recourse to the judgment, this UGC can issue anything. It can extend CUET to state. You will not find this point anywhere. This is my own understanding. Right? The point I am trying to say, this is possible. And this is in light of this NEP. NEET. Increasing centralization of education, which is not as per the reality of this country. It is felt by some states, especially South Indian states, the Hindi is being imposed. And education policy is something formulated by the government of India only. No consultation was done with the states. And it is being somewhat promoted. And UGC is also doing the CUET. Most of the students who got admission through this are CBSE students. State boards कहाँ चला गया? NEET. National Medical Commission has been established under this. NMC Act, National Medical Commission Act 2019 was established, which has been dictating in state universities, state medical college के अंदर कितना fee होना चाहिए, कितना लोगों को होना चाहिए, everything it is saying. Shouldn't the state or the local reality should guide the policy of education? The needs of people, the language of the people, the requirement of people, the resources of people are different. There should be flexibility. The reason why education is concurrent list, not in union list, is because of what? Both can make law. According to the requirement, the diversity, they can make law. And concurrent list also provide that if a state law in concurrent list violate or is repugnant to the union legislation, if it gets offended by the president, the state law will prevail. Why this is given? In order to accommodate differences, in order to promote diversity. So our idea to discuss the entire constitutional locus of education is this. It is spread over in multiple entries. If it is spread over multiple entries, then there will be conflicts, repugnancies. And we should have a mechanism to address this. And second issue is conceptual, the law and regulation issue. A law is superior, a regulation is subordinate. Having said that, a regulation is also made as per the authority given by law, whether expressively or implicitly. But the history, or let's say the example of the Banking Regulation Act and extension of that to urban cooperative societies, urban cooperative bank, tells us that law is superior than regulation. Just because of RBI has some power under a law does not mean that it can make any regulation. No. The regulation making power is limited by the Parent Act. And if it has to be extended to various other areas, then the act should have been amended. Right? And the law under 254 is law, not a regulation or a rule. Otherwise, there won't be any sanctity of state legislature. Entire education will be even this agriculture also. Recently, the Kerala High Court has removed Vice Chancellor of Agriculture University. Agriculture University, the High Court said, the appointment of Vice Chancellor of Agriculture University is against UGC regulation. Agriculture is state list, Article Entry 14. Agriculture is state subject. Shouldn't have the states have some flexibility or let's say authority to deal with the local subjects? So when we try to expand or when we try to centralize, either by the government initiative or by the lack of proper understanding of the law and the constitution by the Supreme Court, then it will create problems for the states. You have to read this entire thing in a bigger picture. Issue of federalism. You see this, when Supreme Court said this person will not be Vice Chancellor, he will be removed. Governor of Kerala issued a letter, an order, and he said There are 10 plus vice chancellors of various other universities who are also appointed as per the State Universities Act, which are in violation of UGC regulation. So you should also resign your office. कब से 11 बजे से पहले तुम्हें छोड़ना पड़ेगा. Vice Chancellor went to High Court stayed. Interlinked. Vice Chancellors of universities, Chancellors of universities, Governors as Chancellors of university. Higher education in this country is in a mess, especially from the regulatory legal angle. Substantively it is. But as far as the system is concerned, it is a very great mess. And on the other hand, you are trying to centralize it.
There is no state level regulatory body for higher education, like UGC.
State level body,
This should not have been the state of affairs in any state. Because if there is an independent regulator in that state itself, it would oversee and wouldn't lead to this centralization and UGC interference.
true. Some states have independent bodies, and even Kerala, as far as is concerned, there are commissions which have recommended that government interference in appointment of vice chancellors, whether through selection committee or whether various other procedures, should be limited, should be very less. That should be. Government, by tracing the power to this entry to 32, they can set up. No problem. Agriculture, yes, they can. It's another thing that there should not be centralization or interference by the governor in functioning of university of the states.
State universities are statutory bodies. They can't be regulated by another body set up by the state.
Why not? The a law can be set up.
Like on the statutory body, there is like legislative oversight. There is no need for another.
Jawaharlal Nehru University, Banaras Hindu University. What is it? Statutory body or not? Aligarh Muslim University. Statutory body. Does UGC have control over them? Okay, answer. Now, politicization of higher education in state is a serious issue. Selection and appointment process of vice chancellors, faculties and other critical functionaries should be based upon fair mechanism. Merit based appointment should be there. That's true. But extending UGC regulation through a backdoor is not the way. One of the mandate of UGC is to work as a link between center and state. Why can't you have UGC or states can sit together and devise a formula, mechanism through consultation? Can it be done? Right? Coordination is one of the major function of UGC. Coordination with what? With who? State, center, everybody. So there are mechanisms for improving the standards of education, addressing the problem of political interference through consultation, through better understanding, rather than unilaterally issuing regulation. Now, I want to make very clear, UGC has written to various state universities that your appointment should be based upon our regulations. But it is the Supreme Court that has stepped in to provide more weight to this. And it is not a healthy trend. But yes, state universities, their functioning, the quality of education, the appointment process should be reformed. The reformation can be happened. Extending UGC regulation might be a way, but that cannot be done forcefully. That cannot be done through court orders. That cannot be done in a manner that undermines the constituent power of the state legislature under Article 32 and various other articles. That is against the constitutional scheme of things. It is violating federal principles, and the federal principle has to be read together in the sense that there are many other federal challenges too in this country. This is one major.
The governor has, in one case directly, the state government has given only one name for appointment to the governor. In that case, right away it is wrong. But governor also extended the same provision to 10 other vice chancellors and asked to resign them. Was it the same case with the 10 others or the other regulations of UGC violated?
Governor said appointment of these vice chancellors are done contrary to the regulations of UGC. Now, what exactly the regulation, that we do not know.
Okay. On
He said, yes, Supreme Court has removed this person, so automatically you will also be removed.
But Supreme Court has removed in one particular case.
That is
where
what
only one person was recommended for the post instead of a panel.
Governor of Kerala and Government of Kerala is at loggerheads. It has to be read in that way. Every day, governor is issuing statement, press conference, etc., etc., and that's a different issue because governor has undermined the constitutional sanctity and dignity of the office. In Kerala, not only in Kerala, where in many states where the opposition parties are ruling, the governors are acting as the faithful soldiers of political parties at the center. I think even today's Hindu, yesterday's Hindu, I think have this issue of governor also. It is something which is always going on. Right. So everything has to be seen together. I mean, a macro picture has to be there. Education, governor, federalism, constitutional locus, repugnancy. One lecture, one topic, multiple dimensions. Right? कुछ पूछना है?
Sir, this debate of either a centralized education or a decentralized education or a uniform UCC or a multiple diverse laws, all this comes under the unity versus uniformity dimension.
Yes, it can.
We are discussing only the legal aspect of it.
We are discussing one dimension of it. That is university education and constitutional locus of it and how it impacts federalism. Next is 6:15. I will rush because I have 45 minutes for 4 topics. UCC. Now this is something very much in the news. Many state governments have decided that we will bring uniform civil code, especially when there are elections round the corner. So government knows that अच्छा ये भी हमने बोला था कभी, so हमें करना है इसको. Now uniform civil code is something the state governments, many state governments have set up committees. Some state governments have said we'll set up committee. It is high time to implement uniform civil code in this country. There are PILs being filed in the Supreme Court and Delhi High Court that uniform civil code is very much necessary. The question is, what is uniform civil code? Whether it is necessary, if it is necessary, why? If it is not necessary, why not? Points are given in the book. It is very much easy for you to understand. Read. But the question is, I want to discuss this with you for 10 to 15 minutes to know your opinion about this. What exactly, first of all, tell me, what is UCC? Uniform Civil Code. Let's write this. Uniform Civil Code. Code. Uniform means similar or
Homogeneous.
homogeneous. Yes, which means equally applicable to all. What is civil? Well, customary laws? No.
Divorce, inheritance, marriage.
You are giving me examples of civil laws, not explaining me or defining me what is civil or telling me what is civil.
Something that is not criminal is civil.
You are defining civil in a negative manner. You are giving negative definition.
Civil has something to do with private issues. Or
हाँ ठीक है. Civil refers to a relationship between individual and individual. A law which governs the relationship between individuals is a civil law. A law that regulates the relationship between individual and the government is no public law. देखो, law is majorly divided into 2 parts: public law, private law. Public law, law that deals with the relationship between individuals and the government, and also the functioning of the government, is public law. Law that deals with the relationship between individuals is private law, also known as civil law. In public law, you have constitutional law, criminal law, tax law, etc. Here you have law dealing with contract, tort, marriage, family, etc., etc. So we are dealing with this private law or civil. Clear? Code. Code means that which is existed without legal form is being given legal form. Customs codified into law. Traditions converted into law. When something is given legal sanctity or legal position or legal basis, then it becomes a law. When there is consolidation of various enactments into a one single law, it is also code. IBC, Insolvency Bankruptcy Code, Civil Procedure Code. यहाँ पढ़ा था, आपको निकाल के रख दिया. Right? Now the question is equal application. Dealing with this civil aspect, that is especially marriage, adoption, succession, और क्या? Divorce, guardianship. Code, which means we will combine, consolidate. And also, there, if at all there are some customs, etc., that will also be included in it. Uniform Civil Code traces its authority or legal or constitutional basis to Article 44. That you know. Question is, why in Article 44? Why not in any fundamental rights article? If something is put in DPSP, what is the idea behind it? Why something is put in DPSP? Why something is put in fundamental rights? Why?
At that time, state was not resourceful enough to implement it that time, but state should, like, in the future, like.
Is it mandatory for the state to implement? No. No. Which means whenever the conditions are necessary, favorable, whether in terms of resources, environment, political culture, social acceptance, right? Then that can be, state can take measures to implement it. Whenever condition is favorable. That is the reason. India, we call DPSP as an instrument of welfare state. We have so many provisions. But we put it in DPSP not as a fundamental right because we did not have resources and we did not have that much capability to meet these objectives. But it is desirable. Similarly, 44, the country was not ready, so it is done. Is the country ready today? Is the country ready for Uniform Civil Code?
The question is like.
I am asking a question, you answer me. Is the country ready for UCC? Yes.
In 1947, country was not ready for constitution, but still constitution was bought as a primary guiding law.
Who said country was not ready?
I mean, all the progressive provisions of the constitution were put in the constitution on 1947. Although the country, society was not ready.
Constitution was not, independence and movement of independent country would not have been possible without constitution. That is fundamental building block.
Yes, but many progressive provisions have been incorporated so that this is a light into the future. So UCC can be today viewed as a light into the future. You need to take step.
No, the arguments that country was not ready for constitution, country was backward, there were illiteracy and there were poverty, people did not understand the democratic principles. Still, we brought the constitution, which is a modern document. Then, even the country is not ready today, then we can bring Article 44. This is what you are trying to say. So you are agreeing that the country is not ready.
Country is ready for UCC. You have to go.
Then your argument with equating constitution and country is not ready, then it is not logical.
Yeah, UCC is a progressive.
I am simply asking whether country is ready or not. You are saying yes. And what are your argument for that? Don't tell me that constitution was there. No. Constitution is given by people. Constitution assembly was representative. Every opinion was heard and discussed. Amendment being done to constitution after taking input from the people. Right? It took more than 2.5 years for discussing and debating. So you can't say that people did not know and the country was not ready. Anyway, the point I am trying to say is whether it is country is ready today.
Initiate the process
Okay, fine. You are saying that let us initiate. Now the question is initiation. Fine. I'll just. So what? When you initiate, who will initiate? Number one. What will be the content of the UCC? मतलब क्या होगा उसके अंदर provisions? Who will initiate? Only the government? Only the government? No, okay, you are saying civil society or? Okay, religious authorities. Don't single out Muslim personal board. There are many religious authorities in various religions. Hindu, Sikh, Parsi. A Parsi woman who is married into other religion cannot be a Parsi. She is excommunicated. So the discrimination or the prejudices is not something only limited to one religion. This has to be kept in your mind. Don't think that UCC is something, a UHC, Uniform Hindu Code. No. Right? Anyway, community. ठीक है? Who will? Content. क्या होगा उसके अंदर?
Marriage, divorce.
No, वो तो है, बट क्या उसके अंदर क्या किसका मैरिज मतलब किसका मैरिज इन द सेंस हिंदू हैव डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ मैरिज मुस्लिम you mean Hindu Marriage Act will be that's the idea. So you are saying okay, this will deal with marriage, fine. So the way Hindu is conducting marriage will be incorporated under UCC and it will be applicable to all communities. Fantastic approach. Now let's marriage. The way Hindu is married in North India is different the way Hindu is married in South India. Even Tamil Nadu the marriage is different, Kerala the marriage ceremony is different. The customs are different. 7 क्या कहते हो 7 फेरे, right? In when the bride and groom takes it, then marriage is solemnized. It's become legal. It is valid. There is no 7 kind of thing in Kerala. So even within Kerala, there are different Hindu communities in various. Let's say this northern Kerala different. Punjab Hindu, the way they marry is different. There are different school sects in Hinduism. Arya Samaj, marriage different. Hindu है नहीं है वोक्कलिगा लिंगायत डिफरेंट. क्या करेगा फिर बताओ कौन सा हिंदू? Muslims, different community of Muslim. Shia, Sunni, Bora, I mean all those parts are different. The question I am asking, anyway, I am only talking about marriage. Tell me.
Sir, content should be based on universally accepted values.
What are universally accepted values?
Like, it shouldn't be discriminatory, first of all.
It shouldn't be discriminatory.
Gender discrimination, it should be against that. Gender equality, then.
Gender equality is a value.
Yeah.
Fine, agreed. But how will you give concrete shape to that? A value is something desirable. I cannot say this pen is a value. This pen has a value. But there should be pen. Similarly, I am saying there should be provision. You simply say that gender equality, fine, that is the basis. But what?
Like, for example, like, polygamy is a practice that is.
Polygamy. Very good. 1 minute. Polygamy is only practiced in one religion?
No.
No. So polygamy is something which is, according to you,
Against the, it is a socially.
no, I would say if you are allowing polygamy, then you allow also polyandry. Polyandry means what?
Multiple husbands.
That can be a way of equality. Just kidding. But the point I am trying to say, yes, polygamy is something which is generally abused and discriminated towards women. But point is, how you solemnize marriage, how you conduct the marriage, what should be the, if you conduct the ceremony, then marriage is valid. मंदिर में जाना है या मस्जिद में जाना है, कैसे करें, प्रीस्ट चाहिए या इसमें मतलब कैसे होगा? What should be the content of this uniform civil code etc. to marriage, divorce, succession, क्या होगा उसके अंदर? हाँ बोलो.
in only the we can only base it on values. मतलब actually क्या होगा, that has to be given.
What is the definition of a value? क्या है वैल्यू मतलब? एथिक्स बताओ. है एथिक्स के अंदर वैल्यूज?
Not values and morals, but ethics, he mean to say.
No, I am simply asking what is value. Give me a definition of value.
That's we close hold to we like.
That which cannot be proved right or wrong, that is value. Because value is personal. Value is intrinsic. Right? I like democracy. I value democracy. I value rule of law. I value dogs. I mean, you are asked, but until unless I go and care a dog, you cannot prove it, whether I do it or not. Getting what I am trying to say? Value are abstract things. Value requires concretization in terms of fact. I like something, I prefer something. Value is a preference for something. A preference is individual, subjective. The point I am trying to say, fine, I agree. Democracy is a value which generally people accept. There is something called public value. Because in general, people accept or agree it. Fine. But the point is that we have to provide concrete terms to it, wording to it, provisions to it. Simply cannot write marriage should be according to gender equality. What does it mean?
Sir, for gender equality, like one, 3-4 things that I can think of, like obviously polygamy should be abolished, then equal rights should be given to women and property. And
1 second, polygamy should be abolished. It is possible that a man, a husband, a woman, one of these two is unable to conceive. Problem hai. Now, some religion, in that sense, you can have second wife or second wife. I mean, see, this is it.
The consent of both of the
It is possible. I mean, it is not illegal in that sense.
The intention should not be the exploitation.
Absolutely. Indian, for noble purposes, this is something necessary. Right. So, we cannot say except, there are exceptions. I am going to say exceptions. Polygamy is illegal. It should be abolished. No, that should not be our approach. It should not be an instrument of exploitation. If there is legitimate purpose, then it should be.
No, we can blankly ban the polygamy and we can deal these things case by cases.
So, polygamy means more than one marriage, right? So, if it is this, no, we are not taking with, there is a different thing. With the consent of husband or wife, marriage can happen second. If there is a problem in conception.
But there should be societal consent also. So we need some other things to take in consideration.
Fine, agree. But point I am trying, exceptions can be there. When we are saying banning polygamy, that might not be right proposition. Because exception needs to be provided. Under case to case basis, fine. Now, I only touched upon marriage. And we had a very great deal of argument based on this. Now, we are only how many people? 5, 4, 8 to 9. This is what, we have different strong views about this issue. And we are only touched upon one small part of it. That only from a general point of view. We are not lawyers, we don't know exact what is the legal position, etc.
UCC is to resolve the problem of society.
What are the problems of society?
Like gender discrimination, wage gap.
How UCC can resolve gender discrimination?
There should be strong laws and regulations.
Gender discrimination, how gender discrimination can be resolved by UCC?
Wage gap.
Wage gap is not part of UCC. It is a different law.
Female gets lower wages than
No, that won't come under this. This is dealing with adoption, marriage, private affairs. Not dealing with contract.
there are some in different personal laws that are discriminatory when it comes to the distribution of property.
Fine, agreed. Personal laws. Personal laws of religion. There are some discriminatory practices, agree. And these discriminatory practices cut across almost all the religion, not belonging to one. We have provided some examples in it. Whether dealing with guardianship, whether dealing with property, whether dealing with divorce. I will give you some Christian community. Husband and wife should live separate for 2 years, then only divorce can be there. So I'm just giving an example. Point we are saying, personal laws of many religion. Personal law means law dealing with affairs which are essentially non-religious. I am using the word very carefully because I am not using religious. Because these things, marriage, adoption, guardianship, succession, these are not religious activities. These are secular activities in the sense that these are non-religious. It has nothing to do with propagation, practice, pray, doctrine, no. It is dealing with non-religious activities. So personal laws like all this Shariat law, what is that, Hindu Marriage Act and Christian Marriage Act, etc., deal with secular activities of individuals belonging to a religion. Huh.
So personal laws to a large extent are being guided by religion. Like religion, one of the major functions is to regulate the personal life.
That's the problem here. The very good point. Point is, he is saying religion cannot be separated from personal law.
In some religions.
In most of the religion, in all the religion I would say. Ultimately, marriage ceremony in religion, from where, what is the source of it? Tradition, custom? है कि नहीं? And though these tradition custom have been made into law through the parliament, as far as Hindus concerned, 1956. What I am trying to say clear? See, Hindu Code Bill, or let's say Hindu Succession Act, or Hindu Marriage Act, these are laws made by the parliament. उसके अंदर क्या है कंटेंट? पुराना ही है, उसको निकाल के डाला है, कुछ रिफॉर्म किया है बस, और धीरे धीरे उसको रिफॉर्म किया है. 2005 में रिफॉर्म किया भी किया है. रिफॉर्म इज अल्टीमेटली इट इज ट्रेडिशन एंड कस्टम्स ऑफ अ रिलीजियन.
Tradition and customs are different from religion if you are talking politically.
Even in the Hindu Marriage Act, it is also applicable to other communities, not only to
Hindu marriage applicable to Sikh and Buddhist. That's it. But not to other. See, the point I am trying to say, the way marriage is conducted as per Hindu Marriage Act is based upon tradition and custom. It is not that marriage parliament has enacted new provisions. Parliament has enacted a new act, Special Marriage Act 1954, for modern way of conducting marriage. रजिस्ट्रार के पास जाओ, शादी करो, वो अलग है. These are mere codification of what is existing. So religion तो है, priest आना है, ये करना है, वो क्या है? It is difficult to separate what is religious and non-religious. But having said that, still, when we are saying personal laws are made by the parliament, right? And these are dealing with secular activities of religion. Agree? Fine. But these secular activities of communities are intrinsically linked with this religion. What is secular and what is non-secular? Hijab, wearing of hijab. What is it? Is it religious activity or it has nothing to do with religion? Is it essential religious practice or not? Supreme Court has a split verdict on that. The women who are wearing it saying that it is my essential religious practice or it is part of my religion. I have a right under Article 25 to practice and propagate. And state can only regulate it, cannot ban it. There are fundamental questions here. I am just telling you fundamental questions in the sense that when you are trying to bring a lot of these personal laws or various other aspects into this code, it has to satisfy Article 25 of the Constitution and 26, which provides religious freedom. What is secular of religion, what is religious in religion is very difficult to demarcate. Many individuals in communities have essentially religious in the sense that It is part of their culture. What is religious and what is cultural? Difficult to demarcate. I am simply saying that these personal laws are made by Parliament. Although personal laws are under concurrent list, which means both the state can make law, Parliament can make law. Parliament made law for personal laws. But these personal laws are essentially a rehash or reworking or reformulation of all those customs and traditions in a modern form. Reform has been done. I am not saying it has not been done. Now what you are trying to do is, these personal laws have discrimination, gender discrimination, right? And the only way to address the gender discrimination and other discrimination in these personal laws is to bring a uniform civil code which will address all the problems. Is that 2005 Parliament amended Hindu Succession Act, in which married woman, married daughter got property rights in her father's property. 2005, married daughter got property right in father's property. Earlier nahi tha. Now I am asking you, this amendment, prior to this amendment, do you think that this provision was discriminatory? That the daughter is married, so no right for father's property. Discriminatory. How the discrimination was removed? कैसे remove किया? Amendment. कर रहे हैं? Supreme Court struck down triple talaq, which was provided by the personal law. How? Judicial intervention. To remove the discriminatory practices with respect to women and bring gender equality, there are other ways too. This can be reformed. It is not necessary that we should have a UCC. And there is no guarantee that this UCC will have gender equality. Provided, why I am saying, you tell me what exactly will be the content of it. Whose UCC? The general idea is that it will be representing or reflecting one community. Somebody has said. This is the idea. No. See, I am not against this uniform civil code. I have to make very much clear. But I am against the way this is being propagated. I am against this is the way the perception of UCC is, what it will be. It will be majoritarian. I am against this. I am against the view that UCC is the only way to bring reforms in the religion and secular activities. I am against this. There are multiple ways of doing it. I am against this idea the country is ready for it. The country might have been ready decades ago, but not now. I have discussed an idea about hate speech in the previous class. Some data are there. Number of hate speech declining or increasing? Manifold. So ultimately when you make a UCC, who should accept it and implement it? Community. Individuals. Have there been discussion with the community? Only political parties and governments is saying, and somebody is going to Supreme Court? Have there been wide-ranging consultation?
In Uttarakhand, they are doing.
What doing?
Consulting the tribal communities.
I will tell you tribal community. Now we have raised a very valid point. Tribal community. Tribal. क्या है इनका custom? Are they Hindu or are they non-Hindu? क्या है religion इनका? Tribals. बहुत सारे tribal India के अंदर. What is the religion of the this Andamanese tribals? क्या है उनका नाम? Orang. No, this. हाँ, Sentinelese. Jarawas. क्या है उनका religion? कैसे करते हैं शादी वो? क्या मतलब can we make this UCC applicable to them? Article 371G of the Constitution. 371 7 बज गया यार. 371G क्या कहता है? 371G बोलो. 371G EFG. Special provision with respect to state of Mizoram. notwithstanding anything in this constitution, no act of parliament in respect of religious or social practice of the meso customary law and procedure, administration of civil and criminal justice involving decision etc etc. क्या है इसके अंदर? 28% of the entire country will be excluded from the UCC if at all it is brought out. तो वो क्या है? यूनिफॉर्म है? सिविल तो है, होगा शायद, आई डोंट नो whether it is uniform or not. No. So
In the sense of 371G, even the criminal code is not uniform.
fine, that's okay. What it is?
Uniform, is it a miss?
It seems. It seems so. It should be some differently.
A better word for it, because in a diverse country like India, uniform.
That is the idea. Uniformity, unity of the country does not require uniformity. Unity and uniformity are different things. Uniformity undermines unity, especially in diverse country like India. Diversity have been the reason for unity and integration of this country. Whenever there has been attempt for unification, in the sense that for forcefully having uniformity, then it is undermining the very essence and ethos of this country. We can see a strange trend of this forceful uniformity across the country. I am not saying the government is doing, but this is a strange trend. I just discussed education. Why it is so? Uniform, this national education policy, why? Simply saying, I am simply trying to give you an example.
Like a model act is made and it is generally asked to adopt. If you like it, you can adopt.
I'll answer, yes.
So the better way is that the personal laws.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
But sir, there is another debate that like is the judiciary capable of actually deciding, like even in the essential religious practices matter, it was said that it is outside the domain of the judiciary. I mean, so that is also a debate.
Judges are trained in law, not in theology. How will you decide what is essential religious practice? I have discussed, we have taken ED on this, right? Supreme Court said in Shirur Mud case, essential religious practice should be decided on the basis of the doctrines of the religion. Later they said the essential religious practice will be decided on the basis of opinions of the various scholars. Later they said the essential religious practice will be decided on the basis of various arguments by the state. Ultimately, it is the individual opinion of the judge. Somebody will say it is essential, somebody will say it is not essential. That is not the point. Essential religious practice is not the right way of deciding whether something is essential to religion or not. If an individual, there is something called a religious assertion test. An individual asserts that this is something I am following, consciously following for a long time, I truly believe in it, then that religious practice is protected under Article 25. State can regulate it, cannot ban it. Banning a different thing, regulation is a different thing. Conducting a puja in a temple, is it essential religious practice or not? I mean, yes or no? Is it religious or not? Can the state say puja should be conducted this way? A law is made by the government, can they say this puja should be conducted this way? Why? If that is the case, then I have a right to practice my religion. A community has the right to administer matters of religion under Article 26. Then it will be interfering in my fundamental right.
So my point is that the same problems will be there when judiciary.
Absolutely. That is the federal government rightly said to the Supreme Court that it is not the mandate of the court to tell what policy should be framed. Forming a UCC or not forming a UCC is a policy decision of the government. Let government decide. And government rightly said that we have requested the law commission, 22nd law commission, to look into this matter. In fact, government has requested earlier to the 21st Law Commission, who has given the report, we have provided the report to some extent in the booklet also. The Law Commission rightly said that country is not ready, neither desirable nor necessary at this point in time. What is necessary is that reforming the personal laws and removing the discriminatory practices of that. The secularism and diversity are not antithetical. Diversity is essential to secularism. This debate, this dichotomy between this binary between diversity and or pluralism is against secularism is not correct. Unity is not the same as uniformity. Uniformity undermines unity of this country because it creates what we say. It undermines diversity of individuals. It undermines diversity of practices. It undermines diversity of belief system. It undermines diversity of culture, language, practices, lifestyle. See, religion is something intertwined with us. Even an atheist person has some kind of religious affinity. It's very difficult, especially in a country like India where religion is essential in the sense that religion becomes a fundamental aspect of our life.
Like we had a unique model of secularism, but apart from being a majoritarian rhetoric, we are like trying to copy the France model.
We should not copy France model. We should not. We are not that. And the country is not France. Our country, see, this country works upon the philosophy of unity and diversity, and it has stood time, right from 47 to 52 to this day, despite multiple challenges, communal insurgency, terrorist, poverty, lot of challenges we faced, but still we stood together, and it is not because of not because of this uniformity. It is because of respecting diversity. 73rd and 74th Amendment. Why did we bring this? Decentralization. Why decentralization? Local requirement, local need, local resource, local decision. Centralization is antithetical or against the developmental aspiration when the democratic progress of the people. So we brought decentralization. So UCC is centralization. If at all UCC has to be there, state can formulate because it's in concurrent list. Personal laws, see, Uniform Civil Code, the power to make law on these matters, interstate, this, what is that, succession and etc., is from concurrent list. So both state can make and union can make. If some states are ready, let those states make. After wide-ranging, consult.
Goa has UCC.
This is a notion that has to be corrected. After that, I will go to another chapter. Okay? Otherwise, it will not end. Goa, you say UCC. Hindu, polygamy is allowed in certain condition. Christian marriage, priest in church can solemnize. Priest can dissolve marriage. Muslim, Shariat law not applicable. Goa is governed by something called Portuguese Civil Code Act 18, which year? I think Portuguese Civil Code 1857 something. This is a civil code which governs entire thing. Now you tell me, is this uniform? Even when you are saying Goa has a uniform civil code, it is not strictly uniform. There are differences, divergences, because it also accommodates differences, various requirements.
Then in what sense Goa is called?
I don't know. I don't know why it is called Uniform Civil Code. It is known as Portuguese Civil Code, not Uniform Civil Code.
There might be some aspect of uniform.
It is lack of awareness. It is ignorance. Or to find argument for supporting UCC. We have an example of UCC in Goa. Why can't other states have argument?
So we shouldn't write example of law.
I don't say. See, you can say, write that.
Sir, even Supreme Court,
So what?
Court has quoted, look at the Goa model.
Supreme Court has corrected its judgment multiple times. Does that mean whatever the being Supreme Court mean infallible?
No, I mean,
No, I'm just asking you. If it's so, if that is the case, Supreme Court has not corrected its judgment, multiple times corrected. Right to privacy has been corrected. 2017, ADM Jabalpur, corrected 2017. I'm giving an example. Errors, mistakes can be done by Supreme Court too.
The interpretation of the word uniform, somebody is using it like a propaganda, other is looking at the practical on ground.
Judges are not omniscient. मतलब सब कुछ नहीं आता उनको, सब कुछ नहीं पता है ना.
But the word uniform is a subjective interpretation. Someone has
What
to
is
give a
uniform
meaning.
is something nobody is understanding in country today. They are looking
Even there is uniform in school. School में uniform है, but the question is whether the same material is being used for uniform, right? Whether the color of the texture, contrast of the uniform is same. Somebody might be wearing pants, somebody might be wearing shorts. किसी का फटा होगा अगर गरीब होगा तो, किसी का अच्छा होगा फैब्रिक, किसी का पॉकेट हो किसी का नहीं होगा. Where is this uniformity? What is the need of it? Uniformity. Even criminal law है, criminal law के अंदर uniformity है. CL criminal law बताओ. Children under 16 years of age rape करेगा तो कोई issue नहीं है. President of India and Governor, Article 351, no criminal proceeding against them. Hey, criminal. Bail law, anticipatory bail, different. State different.
Like idea of the uniformity is about the homogeneous group of people should be treated.
Let those people who are ready for uniform civil code, whatever that means, let them have it. Ambedkar said, it has to be voluntary. Those people who are ready to subject themselves to it, they can. See, if we want to, there are many secular laws in the sense that non-personal laws dealing with marriage, as I mentioned, Special Marriage Act. Those members of those communities who do not want to be part of this personal laws, they can choose marriage as per Special Marriage Act. Similarly, there are laws dealing with succession, guardianship, various other things. Those who want that, I need UCC, I am troubled by this personal law, बहुत सारे law है भाई, जाओ वहाँ पे करो, वहाँ पर क्या problem है?
Do other countries also have different personal laws?
Other countries. France, I will give you an example of France. France, there are refugees and immigrants coming from Muslim-dominated nations. They have wives and children. So can France say that you are not welcome because our country's law are against the polygamy? They have diluted their law in order to provide asylum or help to these people. Even UK has it. UK has this differences or differential application of personal laws or this civil code in respect of, let's say, employment, education, etc., etc. Accommodation is the key, not uniformity. We cannot create this atmosphere like that, and it is a political demand as such. There should not be politics behind it. Welfare of the people, public interest of people, if at all, then that must be the case. We are not against uniform civil code. We are against, we are, as an aspirant, we won't be accepting the way the debate over UCC is conducted, or the way UCC is thought to be framed, especially given the fact that the atmosphere in the country is highly polarized. Right? If the idea is to reform the religion or personal laws, you are welcome to reform it. Right? If there are very discriminatory practices, then you are willing to go to the court and court can decide it, like it has done. What about LGBT couple in this religion? क्या है? शादी होगा? नहीं? Now I want to ask you whether the uniform civil code will be brought to Uttarakhand or Gujarat government. Will it provide for LGBTQ marriage and rights to them? I hope they will, but you know the reality. चलें आगे. Question I am trying to say, I just wanted to open up your mind about UCC. Points are given. Right? Points are given. You read it. और क्या है? Urban local body. Very important. So much facts are given in this booklet. Data is given, but keep in mind, these urban local bodies will come in paper 2 or paper 3 or paper 1 might be, but you will get only 1 or 2 questions. So prepare your notes accordingly. Multiple facts are given, multiple data are given, but don't try to remember them. Take one or two. Ultimately, a good answer is not a facts-based answer. Analysis is required. But to substantiate it, through example, to cases, use them. One of its first kind of study, RBI has conducted a study of the municipal finances of India. 201 municipal corporations. Municipal corporations. Urban local body is a big term. Urban local body में आएगा municipal corporation, municipal council, nagar panchayat and various other urban governance system like this improvement trust और क्या है port trust, cantonment board, etc. etc. खत्म होने वाला क्लास. Not problem, you will get the video. Fit. So we are dealing with municipal corporation. But in paper, चेयर नहीं है. पिछवाला ले लो, पिछवाला चेयर ले लो. But in paper you will get a question about this urban local bodies or municipalities that or urban government. So you can use this data or this topic to write it because there won't be a specific question on municipal corporation. It will be on municipal governance, right? So RBI studied the financial position of the municipal corporations. It found out that क्या found out किया है? Despite institutionalization of urban municipal corporation after 74th Amendment Act, no significant improvement is found with respect to the functioning of municipalities, with especially infrastructure, governance. Despite constitutionalization of municipal corporation through 74th Amendment Act, no significant improvement has been found. Right? Secondly, it said revenue expenditure of the municipal corporation are increasing. Capital expenditure is stagnant. Right, very important. Why? Capital expenditure means creating assets. So the expenditure, the money which is spent by the municipal corporation is for what? Paying salary, है ना? Transportation, maintenance, etc., etc., revenue. Another point it said, municipality in India has two sources of revenue. We have provided that in that too. In general, it is own sources and others. I would say external. Own मतलब municipality का अंदर. Own source. It can be either tax or non-tax. Others can be loans, central government grant, various funds, state government grant, borrowing, municipal bond. Right? So, total revenue of municipal corporations, only 1/3 of the revenue is own source. 1/3. Rest all come from external, especially grants of the state government and the central government, whether grants or through implementing some programs. So 1/3 means only 1/3 is owned. So Constitution of India provides 18 function to who? Municipalities. 18 function. And as you know, urbanization in India is rapidly growing. The urban area of India in क्या हो रहा है? Breaking at the seams. It is bursting, exploding. It has to provide services to the urban people. But the revenue is very less. And providing service, it has to depend upon this. When it has to depend upon this, it will pull strings. A corporate funding a political party will ask the political party to frame policies for the interest of corporate entity. Similarly, if the government is providing funds, They have to follow whatever they are saying. So, because of the dependency, because of the lack of revenue of the municipal corporations and dependency on the higher tiers of the government, the service delivery in municipal area is very poor. It is self-explanatory. हमें पता ही है यहाँ पर कितना गंदा पानी आता है, पानी आता नहीं है, गंदा पानी आता है, ड्रेन ब्लॉक है, बारिश होगी तो क्या होता है, this water logging. Primary aim of urban local body is to provide services to people. But because of the lack of financial capacity, it is not able to provide quality services. And if you are not providing quality services, people will not pay tax. Poor service delivery leading to poor tax payment, leading to poor service delivery. Circle. Property tax, anyway. So, if service is not given good, if there is no quality of services, people are not willing to pay taxes. This is natural, because I want electricity full, I want water, but I am not getting it. Then why should I pay taxes? So I will delay paying, or I will not pay, I will try to evade. So poor service delivery, see, this is it. Lack of finance leading to poor service delivery. Poor service delivery leading to lack of appropriate tax payment, leading to poor service delivery. मतलब गोल गोल घूम रहे बस. This RBI report said one of the major instrument of financing of urban local bodies across the world, especially developed West, is municipal bond. Municipal bond like electoral bond. Municipal bond is a bond, an instrument which is issued by municipality in the capital market. Security है, government security type. But the amount of funds raised by municipal corporations through this municipal bond is very less. 1% of GDP of India is the total amount raised by municipal corporation through municipal bonds in India. In USA, it is 10% of their GDP. Intergovernmental transfer, that is transfer of finance by state government and central government to municipal corporation, amounts to 0.45% of total revenue of who? Municipality. In UK it is 10%. This is not given in the booklet, so you can write if you want. I am just giving you some comparison, because it will add value to your answer. So,
Amount coming from higher tiers of government is only 0.45%.
0.45% of total revenue. See, no. Total revenue of higher government. Total revenue of the higher government, only 0.45% is given to the local level.
The devolution is only
Yes. Devolution is that. Here it is 10% is given to the local level, which means the government, the higher tiers of the government are not devolving enough funds. That is why we know something called 3F. Funds, functionary and functions. So devolution is not happening. Functional devolution happened. In general 18, although it is not given, but still 18 is given. But in order to carry out those functions, you should give funds. So financial position of urban local body, especially municipal corporation in India, is very in a very abysmal state. There are some reports of World Bank which I have provided in the booklet to do, and this Nidhi Aayog, which says that this municipal corporation and municipal bodies in India require billions of dollars of investment in coming years. And you also know that by 2050, India is going to become what? Highest? Populated country, something like that. By 2050, more than 70% of India's population will be in urban area. This is what United Nations report says, 2018 report. Simply I am saying, urbanization is an ongoing phenomenon in India. As per census 2011, urban population in India is 31%. We are living in 22, sorry. As per World Bank, the urban population in India in 2011 is 50%. There is huge disparity, I am saying. Urban population is increasing in India. India is undergoing rapid urbanization. You experience it yourself in Delhi. Right? Half of the urban population in India live in municipal corporations. Half of the urban population, total urban population कितना India में अभी? 450 million. Half of that live in municipal corporation. Though 201, no, I think 200 plus है municipal corporation in India. Half of the urban population live here. There are around 1600 municipal council. There are around 500 something नगर पालिका. यहाँ पे कम है, यहाँ पे बहुत ज़्यादा है. Increasing population means increasing pressure on infrastructure, services, increasing requirement of finance. But finance for municipality is very less. Municipality is also dependent upon the what? Higher tiers of government. Whenever you are depending upon higher tiers of government, then you have to follow the schemes and program, and the way they decide, you lose your autonomy.
This devolution doesn't include the grants received for the schemes.
Everything is included. Everything is included here. Including finance commission grants. Schemes. But the problem, most of the schemes, when they provide funds, the schemes have conditionalities. Some conditionalities are good, some conditionalities are not. In fact, some conditionalities impact the autonomy, decision making, local requirement, needs of the municipality, for that matter, Panchayat Raj institutions. Now the question is, okay, one more thing, one more point is, majority of the revenue of the municipal corporation is from property tax. कहाँ से है? Property tax. Property tax means tax on property of individual, house, various, let's say, commercial complexes, etc., etc. You are living here, you pay rent to the landlord, right? He is getting rent, so he has to pay property tax. But I want to tell you, have you read, when you are reading the newspaper, you might have come across the various advertisements or notifications or notices of the municipal corporations saying that we are conducting property adalat, property tax adalat, property tax adalat. Okay, if you have 2 years due, pay only 1 year. Settlement.
MCD election, there is a program to
Yes. Settlement, waiver, reduction. Why? People are not paying property tax. Property tax is the major component of municipal corporation revenue. But property tax is not paid by people in time and also evaded. So one of the important method of improving the financial position of municipality is to reform property tax system. Right? Digitization of property. Checking tax evasion of property. Changing the method of evaluation of property. There are three methods in general followed. One is annual rental value, another is annual capital, yes. One is annual rental value, another is capital value system, third is unit value. Majorly the municipal corporations or municipalities in India follow annual rental value. मतलब साल में कितना रेंट मिल रहा है, वो साइंटिफिक नहीं है. मार्केट वैल्यू के आधार पर प्रॉपर्टी टैक्स कैलकुलेट करना चाहिए. सो वी शुड शिफ्ट फ्रॉम ARV टू CV, annual rental value to capital value system. This has been recommendation of second IAS, this has been recommendation of Finance Commission, a lot of commission have recommended. There are some municipal corporation, I think Chennai, except Chennai, I think, some municipal corporation have adopted this practice. Right? So that is one way of improving the financial position of municipality. Second way is proper accounting, auditing, budgeting by the municipality. It is not done. Huge corruption, huge mismanagement. The budget is not prepared on a scientific manner in municipalities. So entire financial management system of municipality should be reformed. Accounting, auditing, bookkeeping. Right, that is two. Now we are, and municipal bonds. Municipal bond is an instrument through which municipality can raise funds from the market. But municipal bonds, most of the municipalities require sanction, approval from the state government, which generally they won't give. Or if at all they give, they give with conditionalities. Not only that, a municipality approaching the capital market to raise funds through municipal bond should have the capacity to repay. Credit worthiness होना चाहिए ना municipality का. That is also an issue. This Mumbai Municipal Corporation, Bangalore Municipal Corporation, they have the credit worthiness. But some other municipal corporation, they won't have that much credit worthiness. Like let's say Indore, Lucknow, small. They do not have that much economic activity so that they can raise resources. लोग खरीदेंगे ही नहीं. Another important problem is GST. GST has subsumed many municipal taxes like octroi, advertisement tax, entertainment tax. However, GST has not been shared with the municipal corporations or municipalities. RBI says 1/6 of the GST should be shared with urban local bodies. Vijay Kelkar, former finance secretary, also said that 1/6 of GST should be shared with the local bodies, which is a, I think, appropriate way.
With urban local bodies or local bodies?
Local bodies. I mean,
1/6.
see, Panchayat Raj institutions, there is no octroi for them, but they have entertainment or this advertisement taxes, right? So when we are saying 1/6, it should be shared with local bodies, predominantly municipal bodies. Because octroi has been a important source of revenue for municipal corporation, and you know that Bombay Municipal Corporation has octroi. GST Act was amended. Bombay Municipal Corporation has octroi. No other municipal corporation in India has, because octroi has been the major source of revenue for Bombay Municipal Corporation. They still have octroi. Octroi means entry tax. A vehicle at consignment entering to a municipal limit should pay some tax, some kind of toll tax. Matlab, to enter the municipal area. That is what octroi or entry tax. So when octroi, advertisement tax, entertainment tax, etc., have been subsumed under GST, the municipal corporations and urban local bodies or local bodies in general have been left with very less revenue. Now we are saying it should be given to the, what we say, municipal corporations or urban local bodies too. And there, as far as urban local bodies are concerned, there are other two important ways of raising the resources. क्या है? Impact tax. क्या है? Impact tax. दूसरा है betterment levy. Betterment levy, L-E-V-Y. Impact tax means I am a businessman. I constructed a shopping complex in a municipal area, a new one. Now when a shopping complex is constructed, who will provide electricity? Either government or government approved authority. Who will provide water? Government or government approved, I mean municipality or this. Who will provide fire safety certificate? Who will provide license? Who will provide road? Which means this new structure consumes the services, puts pressure on the existing services. So because of that, one-time tax is charged on this enterprise, because you are creating impact on the existing services. So that can be one way of raising resources for municipality. Impact tax, also known as congestion tax. Congestion हो रहा है ना, अरे ट्रैफिक होगा तो नहीं होगा. Give you an example. Betterment levy. I am a businessman. I have a shopping complex, right? Here. Now, this is a very small road. Government decided that we will expand this road and we will construct some other some other, let's say, schools or university, etc., etc. तो मेरा business बढ़ेगा नहीं बढ़ेगा? So because of some betterment by the government or municipality, you are benefited. So some tax or fund you should pay to the government, fee or charges. So these things should be adopted by the municipal corporation. अभी यहाँ पे बहुत नहीं है इंडिया में ज़्यादा जगह पे, but these are two ways. There are other ways too. So in order to improve the finances of municipal corporation, urban local bodies, there are two broad ways: internal, external. Internal means within municipality. How? Property tax reforms, right? This accounting, auditing, etc., etc. External is this betterment levy is also internal. We can add this. External is government transfer, GST, municipal bonds, right? Finance commission grants, etc., etc. But also keep in mind, the finance is only one dimension of municipal governance. Ultimately, you should think about this political, this directly, the governance of municipality, mayor, chief executive, political system, control of state government, 74th Amendment, a lot of things are there. A systemic approach is required. If you just improve finances, it is not going to function. Because, what we say, in municipality area, you have a lot of parastatal bodies. You have water board, you have electricity board, you have transport board, you have metro authorities. All are doing different functions and many times overlap. Which function will be from whom? Functional classification, functional differentiation should be there. Here there is DPC also, MPC also. Clear? So I am saying a holistic approach to municipal governance is required. Also finance is the lifeblood of the governance at the municipal level, upon which quality service delivery depends. However, in order to address or in order to make effective utilization of the resources of the municipality, functional classification or functional, what is the word? Functional differentiation is required, and at the same time, dedicated functionaries should also be provided to it. Okay? Some facts for this are provided, but again use it for examination point of view. Okay? Otherwise, you won't be able to remember a lot of things. It is given in order to provide a perspective, proper understanding. जब पढ़ते हैं तो आता है अच्छा ये क्यों है, तो वहाँ पे एविडेंस है इसलिए. ठीक है? फिफ्थ वन इज, हाँ पूछो. अच्छा टेररिज्म. अच्छा टेररिज्म. नो मनी फॉर टेरर कॉन्फ्रेंस. नो मनी फॉर टेरर NMT, ये एनएफ का नाम, NMFT. अच्छा NMFT. नो मनी फॉर टेरर कॉन्फ्रेंस 2022. Recently, Government of India hosted this No Money for Terror conference, in which countries have discussed strategies of combating international terrorism, especially international finance. This is money. Money क्या है? Money, finance. Combating or curtailing access to finance to terrorist networks, terrorist organization and individual terrorists has been the theme of this No Money for Terror conference. No Money for Terror conference has this origin in 2018 Paris because 2015 there was a terrorist attack in Paris, and after the French government decided that we have to do something to tackle terrorism, right? So they organized this conference 2018, 2019. Now it's the third conference which has happened in India. Third conference. Majorly it discussed what? What are the channels of financing international terrorism in contemporary times? How through various channels, various methods, various modes, the terrorists are getting access to the finances. How technology is aiding terrorist financing. Terrorist financing, technology. You must have read in the newspapers. Drones are being used to transfer money. 5 lakh rupees dal diye idhar. Right? Right, drones. And this computer, artificial intelligence, what is that? Dark net, there are cryptocurrency, lot of things. And also, what has been the response of the international community with respect to financing, curtailing financing of the terrorist, and what should be done? This is the overall picture that has been discussed, overall theme that has been discussed by the No Money for Terror conference. India has actively participated. Our Home Minister has been the keynote speaker in this conference. One of the outcome, one of the suggestions given by India vis-a-vis curtailing the financing of terrorism is to have a permanent secretariat. To a permanent secretariat of NMFT. This is actually a conference at the ministerial level. Right? Although there are participation from various organizations, civil society organizations. But it's simply a conference, people come, meet and go. What happens after that? What is the follow-up? Whether any concrete action have been taken? So, for that we should have a secretariat, which means who will carry out the decision taken by this committee or this conference and to implement it properly. Secretary ka kaam kya hai? Secretary, implementation. Similarly, secretary will implement this decision of this body. Now the question is there any other international institution or organization dealing with curtailing terrorist financing? What is FATF? Federally Administered Tribal Area. That is FATA.
Financial Action Task Force.
Task Force. It is created by which organization?
OECD.
Which year?
Sir, I think 2003.
1987 if I am not wrong. It is G7 and European Commission both. Okay? Anyway. So FATF is there, it is the proper functioning or the major area of FATF is anti-money laundering and combating terrorist financing. Combating financing for terrorism, CFT and AML. AML CFT, that is the core area of this what? FATF, FATF. It helps in intelligence sharing, cooperation and coordination, and also takes out 2 lists. क्या था वो लिस्ट? ब्लैक लिस्ट और ग्रे लिस्ट. इज देयर एनी कंट्री अंडर ब्लैक लिस्ट? ब्लैक लिस्ट में कोई कंट्री है? ईरान और नॉर्थ कोरिया और ईरान. रशिया नहीं है यार अभी तक, होगा बाद में. रशिया हैज बीन डिक्लेयर्ड terror state by EU. Anyway, there are 2 countries, North Korea and Iran, as in black list. Black list and grey list mean the country or the government cannot access funds from the international system. Investment will be diluted. They won't be able to access credit from the IMF or World Bank, etc., etc. So the sanctions can it is a way of sanctioning the country. Pakistan has been a part of grey list, but recently it has been removed. Why? पाकिस्तान ने बहुत अच्छा काम कर दिया. क्या किया बताओ? Very good. Anyway, Fine, which means Pakistan must have taken some very concrete steps for that. FATF have taken. It also shows the importance of FATF. Right. The point is that, fine, this is okay, this conference has happened. Are there any international scenario, system or instruments dealing with terrorism apart from this? This FATF is not an implementing body. It is only an advisory body. It cannot pass sanctions. It cannot pass binding directions, etc. It cannot do that. कोई है? Does the UN have some mechanism to deal with it? It is on. Sorry?
Sir, UNSC resolution 1267.
UNSC resolution 1267.
The listing of terrorists and avoid funding to them.
1267 1999. क्यों आया? Taliban took over Afghanistan. Sanction and listing. Sanction means the individuals cannot travel to these countries. Their account will be freezed. Listing means individual or group will be listed as terrorist organization. So 1267 United Nations 1999 deals with sanctioning of individuals or organizations and listing. Sanction can also be for countries or organizations or individuals. 1373 2001 कहाँ पे हुआ है? USA. This 1373 says intelligence sharing between countries with respect to terrorist financing or the entire activity of terrorism. Legal. Countries should formulate laws to deal with terrorism. Monitoring. United Nations Security Council Counter-Terrorism Committee, CTC, has been established under 1373. Counter-Terrorism Committee has been established by UNSC under this to monitor the implementation of 1373. उसके बाद 2008 में क्या हुआ? बॉम्बे. उसके बाद 19, 20 पठानकोट, उरी, 15 पेरिस. If I draw a map of the world, I can show you that how far terrorism has spread in this world. Can we include the killing of innocent people in USA by gunmen? Can we call the violence against Muslims in New Zealand, Christchurch shooting, an act of terror? Can we call Easter bombings in Sri Lanka as an act of terror? Can we kill the brutal killings of children and other people by Boko Haram in Nigeria as an act of terror? Can we say the entire Middle East is a hub of act of terror? Can we say Taliban has not bent its ways? Can we say what Russia is doing in Ukraine is an act of terror?
There is no clear definition.
Absolutely. One of the major problem with, despite this instrumentalities, not only this, there are many other regional organizations like SCO hai, BRICS hai, European Union hai, this, what is that? Inter-American organization hai. So, African Union hai. Most of the regional political organizations have instruments, mechanisms to deal with terrorism. But still terrorism is not declining in the entire world. One of the major problem is, what is terrorism? क्या है terrorism? Similarly, what is uniform civil code? What is uniform in uniform civil code? Whether there is anything civil in it. Anyway, no universally accepted definition of terrorism. If at all there has to be uniformly accepted definition or universally accepted definition, it has to come from United Nations. What if terrorism? There has not been a universally accepted definition. there are 17 or 18, कितना है? रुक जाओ. There are international conventions dealing with terrorism. कितना है? 15 global conventions, yes. There are 15 global conventions dealing with international terrorism, including terrorism in, let's say, terrorism conducted in planes, ships, hostages. I mean, it is very huge. It also deals with nuclear terrorism. These conventions deal with various aspects of terrorism. There are 15 international conventions which are accepted by countries. Still, terrorism is not declining. There is no sign of control of terrorism. One of the major problems is that what if terrorism has not been defined in the conventions? That is why India has said that we should have something called Comprehensive Convention of International Terrorism, CCIT. क्या होना चाहिए? 1996 Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism, India proposed in 1996. क्या है अभी? 2022. Why India proposed in 1996? Beginning from late 80s, India has been victim of terrorism. India kept on telling, or India has made combating terrorism as an important pillar of its foreign policy. In the international arena, it has repeatedly discussed and raised this issue. Then the West said or felt that Pakistan is your neighbor, not my neighbor, so I have no problem. When Taliban took over Afghanistan, and it has given shelter to Al-Qaeda and Osama and etc. And when terrorism reached the doorsteps of USA, then USA felt that yes, terrorism problem है, कुछ तो है, करना पड़ेगा हमें. So international community was oblivious, in fact was not willing to deal with the issue of terrorism despite India being a victim of terrorism. So India's efforts were not, have not become fruitful. But in 1919, because of the West suffered, 2001 suffered, they came out with this. Still, what if terrorism, a comprehensive definition of terrorism is not proposed, is not accepted at the UN level? India has proposed a comprehensive definition under this. Oh, it means all forms of terrorism has to be stopped. All forms of funding has to be stopped. No country should give safe havens to terrorists. There should be extradition for people who are accused of, or let's say, accused of cross-border terrorism. There should be periodic implementation of this monitoring. Compliance system has to be there. There should be a dedicated mechanism set up by the UNSC. We have been repeatedly using this CCIT, but nobody is there to take it. Why is it so? There are three major opponents. Right. One opponent is USA. It says that military actions, because the USA is known for military interventions, and what it has done in Iraq and Libya, Afghanistan, will you call most of them act as terror acts? The prison in Abu Ghraib, Guantanamo, क्या है वो? So USA feels that if this comes up, then our military advances, intervention will be labeled as terrorist acts, so we will be held accountable under this. So US is opposing, because it will impact its unilateral, the scope for unilateral actions. OIC is opposing. OIC, not OIC. OIC. Why? They are OIC, Organization for Islamic Countries. Because they say Palestine-Israel issues happening. Palestine is waging this war for self-determination. There are many organizations which are categorized as terrorist groups like Fatah, Hamas, etc. So, according to OIC, this group, if you define it in an all-encompassing manner, then these groups will also be part of terrorism. So, movement towards self-determination, movement against oppressive regimes, movement for democracy. Myanmar, क्या हो रहा है? There is a militia, civilians came together, opposition parties came together, they are fighting the military regime in Myanmar. Now, will you call the people terrorist? Dilemma. It's a matter of human rights, it's a matter of democracy, it's a matter of life of people. You call the military junta terrorist because they are using helicopters and using machine guns and to kill the people of that country. You call Iran as a terrorist state. But the people are protesting because, and ultimately, there is a non-violent protest has a limit, right? So the point is, how will you discriminate? How will you distinguish between these two? So human rights issue, opposition from other countries are also creating some problem with society. But terrorism has become diversified. Narco-terrorism, cyber-terrorism, digital terrorism, drone terrorism, right? I mean, it's a multi-headed hydra kind of thing. So this no money for terror conference has analyzed the financing aspect of the terrorism. It has discussed how to address them. It has focused upon, in fact, it said we should have more better coordination, intelligence sharing, information sharing between countries. And one of the proposals of India was to have secretariat, which will take forward the decisions or inputs, agenda of the conference in a continuous manner, right? But having said that, other instruments of international system should also function together. Like FATF has to function properly, and the conventions 1267, 1373, etc. Because most of the time these conventions or these instruments are used for political purposes, for scoring political points. Whenever a regime or individual or a group is against the interest of the permanent five, they use it. Politically based sanctioning of terrorists. China blocked India's attempt, right? Recently, the financiers of Lashkar-e-Taiba, China blocked attempts. It vetoed. Why? So the point, there is no unanimity, either with respect to the terrorism definition or approach to terrorism, or what is terrorism, how to tackle it. India, being a victim of terrorism, has to take steps to address its concerns, and which we have provided, that we have some laws, right, this NIL law, UAP, etc., etc. But having said that, terrorism has no borders. And with the advent of new technologies like cryptocurrency, like this darknet, or kya hai? This, one more thing, crypto, darknet, etc., etc. It is easy for people or terrorists to manipulate these things, easy to transfer. Deep fake. Deep fake is something that can manipulate, but how does it?
For inciting or
Yes. Radicalization can be done. So radicalization is also linked with terrorism, and radicalization is not limited to one community. Keep that in mind. And terrorism is not on one community terrorism. Right-wing terrorism has been a phenomenon in Scandinavian countries. The Capitol Hill attack by the supporters of Trump is an act of terrorism. Right? The shootings of innocent people and children by gunmen in USA, it's also an act of terror. White terrorism is also something which is happening. Anyway, so terrorism needs to be properly addressed. For that, international cooperation is also required, but the existing mechanism of international cooperation are not adequate. Implementation of the existing conventions which you mentioned, and also early conclusion of the CCIT with consensus, and its proper implementation is the way forward. G20. Time क्या हो गया? 7:34. G20. India is going to become the president of G20. Right? G20 meeting has happened recently in Bali. Bali, Indonesia, Bali declaration. Right? They have discussed a lot of things which you have provided. Recover together and recover stronger. ठीक है. Recover together and recover stronger. This is the motto of it. So recovery is the theme. Post-pandemic recovery. Post-pandemic recovery should be focused. We should work together. And whenever there is such conferences, such meeting, whether it's G20, whether it is BRICS, etc., some common themes are there. Climate change, right? Energy, food security, Russia-Ukraine war चल रहा तो वो भी होगा. I am giving a template. This is common. ये है उसमें सब में. But one of the important outcome of Bali summit was this. It has condemned Russian aggression on Ukraine. Russia is also part of this G20. Russian foreign minister attended the meeting. He did not sign to it. He did not agree. But as a whole, the unanimity was this, that Russian aggression on Ukraine is not as per the international rule. They have condemned it in very strongest terms. Right? And also talked about reforming the economic system, etc., etc. Ultimately, G20 is an economic organization. The history of G20 is that because East Asian crisis in mid-90s, right? G20 formed. It was G20 of finance ministers as well as governors of central banks. Global financial crisis, this upgraded into summit level, heads of state. But still, group of 20 is major focus should be economy. I am using should be because it is focusing upon various other areas. It is also discussing climate change, food security, terrorism, etc. Reformation of multilateral organization. So G20 has transformed from being a purely economic oriented organization into a global issues oriented organization. It has diversified its focus into multiple areas. G20 is more representative. It represents the current reality or power structure of the world as compared to G7. G7 is a exclusive club of industrialist countries. But G20 has industrial as well as emerging economies. In that, it represents the geopolitical and geo-economic realities of current international order. So it is possible for G20 to have consensus, consultation, and on the basis of it can take decisions. G20 decisions are not binding, but it sets a template, a framework for an action at the global level, especially economic. Now, India is going to become the president of G20. Now, as you know, India is trying to become Vishwaguru, right? The global guru. So this is an opportunity for India. Now, how India can utilize G20 system or G20 presidency for improving upon the foreign policy objective of India? India has some objectives. Because G20 focuses on economy, the first priority area of India should be on reforming the multilateral economic system. I am saying WTO is not functioning properly. And WTO is necessary for free trade. And free trade is necessary for globalization. And globalization is necessary for developing countries, their economic development. So protectionist policies taken by various countries, lack of proper functioning of WTO, these things can be addressed through G20 because even China, USA, Russia, and everybody is part of it. And India is a country which is acceptable to most of the countries, except our neighbor. Because India has taken very principled position, a neutral position in almost all the affairs of the international arena. It has not taken any partisan approach. It has always worked upon the idea of peace and brotherhood. It has functioned within the parameters of UN. It has not intervened in any country's affairs. So it is acceptable. So if India's presidency can be used to reform the multilateral trading system, multilateral economic system. I am using economic to also dealing with IMF and World Bank. The governance of IMF and World Bank, which is the monopoly of the USA and this European countries. Today, the international economic order is not based upon free and fair rules. There are, as you know, USA and China, trade war has happened. It is still happening, currency war. There are problems of, let's say, transport, ocean transport. There are protectionist policies taken by West. So India can provide some kind of sanctity to this mad world of international economic system. Today, in the Hindu, a deputy chief, deputy NSA, earlier deputy NSA has given an interview to PTI, Press Trust of India, in which he has discussed about what India can do and what India should do, which is not provided in it because I was reading the. No. Yes, that's a different thing. That will tell you, after reading that article, I felt that where has political neutrality gone? Political neutrality. Anyway, I am saying the article has a lot of praise for the government, especially for the Prime Minister of India, which he rightly deserves. Yes, I am serious about that. So the IAS officer has written that what India can do with respect to G20, and majority of the point is same. The most important aspect is the India as a nation. It stands for equality, sovereignty, freedom, democracy, equality of nations, rule-based world order. Right? So this image, this status can be used for India's interest as well as streamlining the international order, especially economic order. It can reform the dysfunctional institutions like WTO. It can improve the functioning of IMF and World Bank. Not only that, it can use the platform for discussing other issues like terrorism. As I said, this G20 has diversified. It is not merely an economic organization these days. If you see the Bali Declaration, you see that a lot of issues have been discussed. And most of these issues are important for India. India requires energy. We are dependent upon other countries. Climate change is impacting us. Food security is an issue for us because linked with this climate change. Sustainable development is an issue for us. Free trade is required for us. Right? Terrorism is an issue for us. So we can use all this G20 presidency for furthering our interest in the world order. Right? But the problem might be that India might face is this: domestic issues. The economy of India is not growing properly. There is a problem of unemployment. There is social challenges that India is facing. A country can have moral leadership, provided everything is fair in your home. कहता है ना, पहले अपना घर का काम देखो, उसके बाद समाज का. I am saying domestic issues that India face today might create problems because the moral authority might not be there. The countries might not accept it. Domestic issues of unemployment, economic challenges, infrastructure, climate change, etc., again, polarization. See, you need to focus upon G20 because if you focus upon G20, you should focus on the world. But you have internal challenges. So your resources, your attention will be also focused upon here. So there is division of that. And not only that, you lose moral authority to command respect, to tell the people, ये गलत है, कोई नहीं मानेगा. Second is China factor. China is part of this G20. Now how China will respond to India's presidency? Because I am India, I am the president, I am sitting here and you are all members. So I will have agenda, I will discuss. So I will initiate everything. So there should be proper exchange of ideas and meeting of minds between especially countries like China and India. Given the fact that we have Galwan and we have so many differences. Given the fact that China does not want to see India as an emerging power or a rival to China. India assuming G20 presidency means India is equal. India's status is improved. When India has taken decision, and it is taken that this decision has been taken by India's presidency, let's ABC have been taken, and it has been implemented. So India is rising in its stature, which is creating problems for China, because China wants to become an overlord of Asia. And the control of G7 and USA and the European Union on the international financial institutions are very strong. It is very unlikely that they would try to dilute their control over it. Now, having said that, this is a very good opportunity for India, right? Not only from the aspect of the prestige of the nation, but also in concrete terms, especially the economy, and also connected fields like climate change, food security, etc. And India can also use this this summit or this presidency to try to resolve, or try to give some solution to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, because Russia is a part of this G20. So there are multiple angles in which it can be used, right? And something else we have also provided in it. You can read it. Anything you want to ask, you can ask about G20. One issue with G20 is that G20 decisions are not binding. G20 does not have a secretariat. No permanent secretariat there is in G20. Primary objective of G20 has been economic. While diversifying from economy to various other areas, it will mean that it will be diluting its core area. It does not have the access to resources nor the authority to deal with various other areas. It can't do, ultimately terrorism. Can G20 do something? Theoretically it is possible. Ultimately it is the UNSC which is supposed to do it. G20 can become a pressure group in that sense. But the problem is G20 does not have only developing countries. The interest of developed countries and developing countries are more or less different. Very difficult to reconcile it. But G20 provides a forum to address them and arrive at a consensus. And India's presidency is the right moment for that, because India is a country which is more or less acceptable to the world. That is why India's motto will be Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. That is what our motto, right? We'll all, that's it. Chalo. Anything you want to ask, you can.
There was an article, यहाँ पे ये बताया गया था कि India will act as a stature of reconcilable to irreconcilable. वो क्या actually वो क्या कहना चाह रहा है?
Irreconcilable, which means which cannot be agreed upon. There are multiple conflicts.
Means India can be a mediator between Russia and China and
Russia and USA.
Russia and USA or China USA, that's what we are saying. There are many intractable problems in this world, right? For instance, this example, China and USA. So there are multiple divergence, difference of point of view. So India is a mediator, a neutral party, right? So it can try to solve them. Protectionism and globalization, another issue. Terrorism and human rights. Climate change and development. So there are multiple areas for which there are no easy solutions. Reforming the international institutions. Why? Interest of developed West is different and developing countries are different. So this seemingly irreconcilable because it cannot be agreed upon, resolved. But India being a neutral, it has the history of propagating, working towards peace, harmony and brotherhood. So that stature, that prestige, that standing, that position can be used for trying to resolve these irreconciliables. That's what it means. Okay? Or?
So what's the role of presidency in G20, like agenda setting or something like that?
President can set agenda, yes. And President can also have different meetings. President can also raise issues and can generate consensus. Right? If there is a consensus on something, then it is generally implemented. So President has what we say more than a moral stature. It is not a talking shop kind of thing. Right? And presidency is not India's only presidency. There is something called Troika. which means the earlier president, current president and future president, all the three will be together and they will continue as that. Right? So presidency, yes, presidency has immense significance depending upon the country which is holding the presidency. Right? That will decide the importance of presidency. Right? The country can set agenda like India said, that life for environment, sustainable development, terrorism. These are the issues that we will discuss. We'll try to generate opinion and agreement on this. So it has a leeway. But there are general ideas, general principles or general areas which G20 looks into, and the country has opportunity, scope for adding more and also developing various dimensions of it. Right? It depends upon how other members react and how the country can take other members together. Depends upon that. Okay? Revise, right? Okay, chalo, bye. Okay, welcome.